Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Super Game Brothers podcast, a weekly family-friendly video game and board game podcast that Devin and I do together as two brothers, hence the name. My name's David, and I am joined by the heretofore mentioned Devin. Devin, how are you doing on this Wednesday evening?
I'm doing super duper excited to talk about games, upcoming games, and announcements. I'm thriving. Yeah, doing well.
Good. Yeah, I love talking about games. There's too many, which is kind of a first world problem, and I guess a good problem to have. But even just prepping for the show today and all the madness that's gone on the last couple of weeks, I'm like, man, I've spent like 10 hours watching these conferences, and I still know very little about all of these games, and I'll probably only play like 1% of them. But such is life, I guess.
That is true. How many games have been made? I mean, we've probably not even played 1% of games.
Oh yeah, not even. I think in PlayStation's report last week, I think they said there's 9,000 games on the PlayStation Store. And I think Steam has a couple thousand new ones every year. And yeah, there's just so many. And then, so it is just crazy nowadays, especially with how much easier it is for people to make games. I think on the original Nintendo, there's only like 800 total games in like the 10 years that thing was sold and made. So just a different world today. Especially if someone like me, I really like small indie games that kind of are unknown and try weird new things, and there's like a limitless number of those. So if you're only playing like the biggest new Call of Duties, then I think you could be okay, right? Because then you just got a couple games a year you're playing. But if you like games more than that, which we do on this show, and like variety, then you're kind of you're eating well, but there's too much. It's like a buffet, and you're dying trying to eat everything you can. A little gluttonous. All right, Dev, I got two things I wanted to ask you today. First up, last week we made some fun predictions about the NBA Finals, and I think you were Mavs in 6, and I was Mavs in 5. How are we feeling at this point?
I don't stand by that. Celtics in 5. Celtics in 5.
Celtics in 5. Okay, what about this? Porzingis, I don't know if he's even playing tonight, and is supposedly has some rare injury and might be out for a bit of the series. Does that change your estimation at all?
What team's he on?
He's the very tall European player on the Celtics.
Oh, frick. Goodness. I mean, it might go to 7 games. I don't know. I can see Dallas figuring some things out and making it happen, but yeah, the Celtics, like you called it, are very stacked, and it's just like they have an answer.
They are very stacked. I think that this Porzingis thing hurts them. I'm just Googling it right now. He's not playing tonight in Game 3. So I do expect Dallas to win, by a 10 or 15 or something. If they don't, then obviously they're in a ton of trouble because it's almost impossible to win after going down 3-0. Nobody ever has. So yeah, they have to win tonight. And yeah, if Porzingis is playing, I think he had like 23 points in the first game or something. So he's kind of like a wild card that has a bit of sway here. But yeah, I was Mavs in 5, and I'm a little nervous. I want the Mavs to win, but Kyrie has not looked good. Shot really bad.
Yeah, it seems like he struggled.
Mm-hmm. They've really suffocated him on defense. Luka still looks amazing, even though they're trying defensive stuff on him too. But yeah, he needs some help over there. It's just
when he's the only answer.
Luka with 35 points, and then the Celtics have their 5 superstars: Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and what's the other guy who can't remember his name, and Porzingis. So yeah, it's just hard to match that with just Luka, but we'll see. just a little heads up here. As a sign of our undying love for this podcast and for everyone that listens to it, that game, I think, just started, and we're missing it by recording this this episode. So just want you to let you know that we love you more than a finals game that only comes around once a year. So put that in your heart. Remember that next time you're, I don't know, eating some pizza at 11 o'clock p.m. Just think, yeah, those Super Game Brothers, they do like me. They like me a lot. The other thing,
this is true.
The other thing I wanted to mention, a couple weeks ago, Devin, we were talking about Starlink and the internet that we experienced up in Idaho, and I briefly mentioned how much debris there is in space. I got really interested after that conversation, so I started Googling it, and I found this website. It's on NASA's website, so I believe it's true, and they have this whole program about orbital debris. And man, this is nuts. So they say they kind of categorize everything here in how much debris there is and the different sizes. The debris is like different exploded asteroids and spacecraft, upper stages of launch vehicles from rockets, payloads, debris intentionally released during spacecraft separation, created as a result of collisions. Anyways, anything man-made. They even say tiny flecks of paint released by thermal stress or particle impacts. There are 9,000 metric tons of space debris orbiting Earth, and they put them in different categories based on the diameter of the object. So there are 25,000 objects that are larger than 10 centimeters in diameter. That would be like 4 inches or something.
Right.
So 4 inches, what's it, like a baseball? Might even be a little bigger than a baseball. I'm not sure. So you got 25,000 objects, a little bigger than a baseball. Between 1 and 10 centimeters, there's 500,000 objects. And then larger than 1 millimeter, there's in excess of 100 million objects. The scary part here, and this is where I want to see if this ignites. Oh, that's a good picture you've got pulled up, Devin. There, look at all that crap. So much.
I can't decide if this is AI or what this is, but
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But they talk about how fast these things are going. They're at different ranges from the Earth too. But anyways, I wanted to read this part here. How fast is orbital debris traveling? In low Earth orbit, orbital debris circles the Earth at speeds of 7 to 8 kilometers per second. However, the average impact speed of orbital debris with another space object is approximately 10 kilometers per second and can be up to 15 kilometers per second, which is more than 10 times the speed of a bullet.
Yeah, I mean...
Consequently, collisions with even a small piece of debris will involve considerable energy. Or in other words, if you get hit by one of these things that's 1 millimeter, it's going to like destroy you, right? So here's where it gets really scary. They continue and they say a whole bunch more about this stuff, about how long the debris will remain in orbit. Some of it does get to the atmosphere and burns up. And here it is, number 13. Is re-entering debris a risk to people and property on Earth? A significant amount of debris does not survive the severe heating that occurs during re-entry. That makes sense. A lot of it burns up. Components which do survive are most likely to fall into the oceans or other bodies of water or onto sparsely populated regions like the Canadian tundra, the Australian outback, or Siberia in the Russian Federation. During the past 50 years, an average of 1 cataloged piece of debris fell back to Earth each day. No serious injury or significant property damage caused by re-entering debris has been confirmed. So, Devin, is this a new fear of yours that you're going to be hit by something 1 millimeter in size, going 10 times the speed of a bullet, and it's just going to explode you and your entire house?
Well, is it still going that fast when it enters the atmosphere?
You're
does
right.
it slow down?
It would definitely slow down because of
It would just be
the
falling
air
speed,
particles,
right?
But Now, I am not sure at that speed how much it would slow down before it hit the ground.
My question is, why are they saying like it's more likely that it's gonna hit an uninhabited place? Like, I understand why they would say it's more likely to hit water because the Earth is so much water.
Right.
But they're like, if it does hit land, it's gonna hit somewhere that's uninhabited. Like we have control of.
Yeah, I was confused about that
to
too. I wonder if like a lot of them are perfectly orbiting like with the Earth's rotation, like so we know that they're kind of always over the same region. But I don't think the Earth rotates quite that fast though. So I imagine that these objects are going way faster than the Earth is rotating. So yeah, I'm not sure how they know that. Maybe they're only at like very specific like longitude and latitudes. But it doesn't look like it based on these pictures. Anyways, I just thought that was kind of an interesting and kind of scary thought. 9,000
Yeah, it is. It doesn't
tons.
really. It doesn't make sense if you were to, let's say you got in a rocket and you start heading out. How are you not just asking for death? You exit, you're not going 6,000 or 6 kilometers per second.
Right.
You just exited and you're not going with the orbit. All these things are coming sideways at you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, we're just going to dodge every one of them because we want to.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like very risky. They do have a section here about that. Does the International Space Station have to dodge orbital debris? And it says the U.S. Space Surveillance Network regularly examines the trajectories of orbital debris to identify possible close encounters. If another object is projected to come within a few kilometers of the International Space Station, the ISS will normally maneuver away from the object in the chance of a collision, if the chance of a collision exceeds 1 in 10,000. This occurs about once a year on average. And it says, continuing on, how is the International Space Station protected against orbital debris? And they use high pressure tanks and like strong materials, I guess, to be able to withstand the impact of debris as large as 1 centimeter in diameter. The risk of it being struck by debris larger than 1 centimeter is slight, and ways to reduce this risk are being investigated. So yeah, it just seems like you're asking for trouble going up there. Like you could have your spaceship could, work perfectly, and you're the smartest astronaut ever. But here comes this 2 centimeter piece that for some reason got past their sensors or whatever, and boop, ship blows up. I don't know. Yeah, it seems like a mess.
Weird.
Yeah, they talk about a lot more things about, like, I guess there was a big asteroid or spacecraft explosion that caused a lot of it. They have new policies in place to try not to create any new orbital debris, but I imagine anytime, like, you go outside the atmosphere, if it's that even little flecks of paint on the ship, like, kind of melting off or whatever, create new ones. Yeah, nuts. Outer space.
I would think that the way to do it would be, like you said, using the hardest metal. Because let's say a plastic marble is going 6 kilometers per second. That thing's hauling A, by the way. And smacks into a really solid piece of metal. Even at that speed, I think all that happens is the plastic just disappears, right?
Yeah, I would imagine that little marble like kind of explodes.
But doesn't do anything.
Yeah, depending on how strong, I guess, the material is. I don't know what that would have to be and how thick it would have to be. That probably makes another issue with, like, yeah, we could make it thick enough to withstand all of these things, but something that thick we could never fly out into space because it'd be too freaking heavy.
It's probably so annoying working at NASA because you have like all these unanswered questions and nothing ever works.
Yeah, or you have the 100 smartest mathematicians in the world, like, working on all of these projections and theories and mapping all of this debris, and then one little thing goes wrong and 10 people die. Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad there's smarter people than me, and I think this is, we've talked about all the ways that artificial intelligence is maybe like taking away jobs and hurting people. If the AI can track all of the space junk, let them do that. I think that's a good thing. Maybe I agree. The AI can, in like a decade, they can build their own little robots shoot them out into space to clean up the junk. There we go. Now we've solved it. Well, when you're going to bed tonight, think about a 1 millimeter piece of space debris just smashing through your forehead, and that'll help
be
you
really
sleep
nice
good.
for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is the Super Game Brothers video game and board game podcast. Like Devin mentioned at the top, we love talking about games, so we do every single week. This is our 11th episode. We're still pretty new, but hey, we're in the double digits. So I feel like we're maybe like a toddler, just kind of learning to walk. We might fall down the stairs a couple times. We might hit our head on the wall, but at least we're moving. I don't know that I love that analogy, but there we go. Some ways that you can support our show. Listening is probably the number one way. We really appreciate you for listening. You can find us on Apple's podcast services, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox. The video version is also up on YouTube every Monday. And if you want to see the video version or hear the audio version 3 days early, then you can get that on Patreon at patreon.com/SuperGameBrothers. We also do a lot of free stuff over there on Patreon, so you can follow us totally for free over there. And we have all kinds of different perks. Like I mentioned, you can get the show early. You can submit listener questions to the show. We do a monthly Q&A. You get your name in the credits. All kinds of goodies. We also have a monthly giveaway. And this month, for the month of June 2024, we're giving away either a pretty beefy board game. You know, it's a big kind of Ticket to Ride sized box. It's a game behind me on my shelf called Orichalcum, right there next to Heat. It's a really fun game where you're trying to make a new Atlantis since Atlantis fell into the ocean. And it's a race to 5 points against the people you're playing with. And it's a good time. I really enjoy that game. Or you can get a $50 gift card. And I said this, and it is listed in the giveaway. I think I said it last week too. We can only ship that board game in the United States just due to shipping. So if you're out of the country, we still love you. Even though we don't understand your currency conversions like we talked about last week or much else. Even though I did live in Europe for a couple of years, I still don't know very much about it. So yeah, if you're outside of America, we still love you, but we'll give you the gift card instead. So sign up for the giveaway before the end of June if you want a chance for winning. All right, well that I think is all of the housekeeping. This week is going to be a little crazy. We're going to start with what I'm calling this week the news super mini nuke, because I've condensed it to be even smaller than normal so that I only put just the smallest amount of extra debris in space with the mini nuke. And then we're going to go into a new, I won't even call it a new segment, a special segment today, where we are going to talk about each of the, I think there were 5 different video game showcase presentations that happened over the last week. And I'm actually going to shrink me and Devin on the screen, and Devin's going to pull up those conferences and kind of scrub through the different moments. That's going to be muted, so we're still going to be talking if you're listening just with audio. Shouldn't miss anything really, but if you do want to see any of these games and didn't get to catch a chance to watch these events live, then there is that as well on the video version. We'll see if it works. We're recording a bunch of extra things today, and Devin's computer might crash from the extra load we're putting it on it, but I think it'll be okay. Devin's computer is probably more expensive than my car, so it'll be good. All right, so video game news, super mini nuke for today. There is not much. We've got the games that are new to subscription services, and there are a few here. PlayStation announced just today the games that are coming to their extra and premium tiers on the 18th, which I believe that's 6 days from now. That should be next Tuesday. Those games there are 10, I believe, in extra. They are Monster Hunter Rise, Football Manager 24, Crusader Kings 3, Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game 6. I didn't realize there were 5 other ones, but there's number 6 for you. After Us, Anno 1800, Police Simulator, Patrol Officers, Far Cry 4, and 2 Lego games, Lego The Hobbit and Lego The Incredibles, which I'm sure my 2 little boys will enjoy. I am kind of intrigued to try this Monster Hunter, which is supposed to be awesome in multiplayer. It was a Switch game initially, so like the graphics aren't like incredible or anything, but it's supposed to be a very good time. And I would like to try a game in that series, and I think I could only get through it with multiplayer and someone pulling me through. And then this Crusader Kings and the Anno 1800 game are both like civilization, like city builder games that look pretty cool. So I might try out a couple of those. Not 100% sure, but and Devin just played some Far Cry, I think, is a little spoiler for later. So Far Cry 4 being on there is supposed to be a good one as well. What's your pick out of those 10, Devin?
I've wanted to dabble in Monster Hunter, and so that seems interesting. And you said it's multiplayer?
Yep.
Dang, we should play that.
Yeah,
we need to play that, and we need to play that other space game that you like so much.
Oh, space game that I like so much. Which one?
She like shoots bosses, and the bosses have cool music.
Oh, Returnal. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we definitely need to play Returnal. That game rules. Yeah, but cool. Some fun games there, I think. I think there's a little bit there for everybody. So if you have extra, make sure to play those. They are usually in the extra catalog for 6 months to a year, 2 years, but they can be pulled at some time. So if there's any of those games you want to try them out. There's a few on PlayStation Plus Premium. First one is Kayak VR Mirage for PlayStation VR 2. And then we've got kind of the retro games. There's 3 of them this month. We have Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy. It's the PlayStation Portable version. And then we have Ghost Hunter from PlayStation 2 and Daxter from PlayStation P. PlayStation Portable. And that's probably the one I'm most interested in. I really like Jak and Daxter. And this was kind of a side game just about Daxter on the PSP, and I didn't have a PSP, so I haven't played that one. So I'll definitely check that one out. There were also a few like kind of bonus games that Sony was giving out this month for extra and premium because it's their summer days of play something event. And I think a Tomb Raider game from PlayStation 2 was on there, and Sly Cooper from the PlayStation 2 was on there, and I think 5 extra PlayStation VR 2 games, of which I can't remember their names, but we talked about them last week. So lots of stuff on PlayStation Plus if you have PlayStation Plus, and just a reminder, if you only have the Essential tier, make sure to claim your 3 games for Essential. That's SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake, AEW Fight Forever, the wrestling game, and Streets of Rage 4. The Essential tier, those ones stay in your library forever, as long as you have a valid PlayStation Plus subscription. Extra and Premium kind of are rotating catalogs. So for those ones that you get to keep, in essence, forever, as long as you have PS Plus, make sure you add them to your library. Okay, next up, we have the Game Pass games for June. I do think they're going to announce kind of their second half of June portion soon, but they haven't to this point. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games that they have listed here for June are Firework for PC, that was on the 4th, Rolling Hills for console, PC, and cloud on the 4th. And then these 2 were just kind of shadow dropped, kind of out of the blue, it seemed like. Octopath Traveler and Octopath Traveler 2 both came to Game Pass on June 6th. Those are very pretty pixel art JRPGs that kind of have retro kind of leanings, but they are new games, so they're like more pretty than a retro game would be, etc. Supposed to be good. I struggle with turn-based stuff, which we've talked about a bunch, so I'm very picky with it. So I haven't tried those yet. Depersonalization on June 12th for PC. I don't know how to say this one. Isonzo on the 13th. Also on the 13th, the Callisto Protocol, if you like Dead Space and horror games. This one's supposed to not be amazing, but I've heard some people had a good time with it. And then on the 18th, Still Wakes the Deep, which is kind of a walking simulator on an oil rig, if I'm remembering correctly. So check those out on Game Pass, and hopefully we will know what the games for the second half of the month are next week. Okay, and then last up, we have 2 games on the Epic Store. Make sure to claim these. These are free forever. Redout 2 is my highlight of the couple games here. It's basically like Wipeout, a very high speed, like spaceship racing game with tracks that like do loops and all kinds of stuff. I think their shtick is it's supposed to be even faster than Wipeout. I think the speeds go up to like 900, whatever reference they're using, if kilometers or miles, I'm not sure, but it goes very fast. Pretty graphics, looks cool. I wonder if it'll play on my Ally. It might not, but we'll see. The other one is a Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms game, which is a Dungeons and Dragons version of Idle Champions, which I think is a pretty popular kind of series of games that I haven't played. And then just a last reminder, make sure to claim your Prime gaming games. If you have Amazon Prime, we talked about them last week, so I'm not going to hit on them. Okay, a couple more things. The new video games from this last week. There's a vampire kind of base building survival crafting game called V Rising that came out on PC last month, and it just came out on PlayStation 5 this last week. Has a mighty 85 on OpenCritic. It's supposed to be pretty fun. I don't know much else about it, but I do like the cool vampire art. So check that one out. And then the other release this week was a surprise drop, so this is a little bit of a spoiler from the shows that we'll go over in a minute, but this one was leaked beforehand or announced beforehand, I'm not sure which. Alan Wake 2 had a DLC drop, I think the day of the Game Awards. It's called Night Springs, and it's 3 mini stories, I believe, with 3 different characters. One of the characters is the girl from Control, whose name I think might be Jessie. One of them was the character from their game Quantum Break, that famous actor that I think was in like the original X-Men movies, plays that character. And I'm not sure who the third one was, if it's a Alan Wake character that maybe I'm not aware of because I haven't played Alan Wake yet. But 3 little mini stories in that expansion. It's got a strong 83 on OpenCritic right now. So check those out. All right, and last up, we're going to talk really quickly about what we're playing and some board game news before we get into our showcase extravaganza. Devin, I'm going to let you start. You've been playing more games than me this week, so take it away.
Ooh, just video games though, because that's all I do. Let's see. Y'all, did we talk about me finishing the Mass Effect?
I don't think so.
Legendary Edition last week? Well, that was fun. Yeah, I don't think we did. We finished all those games. Beautiful games. I didn't dive too deep into the lore and the stories. I know so many people are super passionate about all the characters and keeping them alive and where they came from and this and that, but we got a gist of what the series provided, and super fun games, to be honest. I guess there were 3 endings, and we accidentally chose one ending, which we did in a very brutal way. We don't have to talk about it on here. It was pretty intense. So we got to watch that ending, and then we decided to go on YouTube and watch 2 other endings to the game, which made no sense to me at all. But super fun games, highly recommend. You could get so lost in those games, you got hundreds of hours to play in Mass Effect.
Which one did you like the best out of the 3? Just curious.
Oh, number 3. It's not even close.
Okay.
It was newer. It felt better. The upgrade system was fun. You didn't have a stamina bar. You could just run. They actually let you like mantle and vault things. Instead of the game being so linear, you could actually like, drop off this edge onto a vent. And they just introduced a little more movement, and it was beautiful. A little crisper.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would say 3 was the best, but some people don't like that answer, and that's fine.
I think that's the cool thing about those games is everyone, because of the many branching paths and different endings, you can kind of have a different experience. Like, you can have relationships with different people, and so you might like the 3rd game the best, but someone else had a different experience in the 2nd one, so they like that one better. I like that kind of idea. I think it's weird when someone says like, no, you need to go back and do every ending and you need to play it the exact way I did. I'm like, why? I'm a different person. Like, I made different choices, and I think that's cool.
Yeah. What else have I been playing? We dabbled a little bit in Far Cry 6. The only Far Cry game I've ever tried. I think we only played it for a day. But it was fun. Super pretty. Didn't really know what was going on. I got to dress an alligator. There was a dog. We had like multiple pets in the game. And I don't know how many pets there are, but they were super creative and funny. And they, like, for example, if you take the dog pet, you can distract enemies with its cuteness. Super weird. And then the alligator is like, I'm going to eat your face off. And the alligator was wearing like bling and stuff, which was cool. That game was fun. The gunplay felt super good, but I don't know too much about it because we didn't give it much of a chance. Someone bought us the third game I've been playing, which is Cyberpunk 2077. Almost forgot the name. And that's basically, it feels like a futuristic GTA. Beautiful game, good graphics, very intense, but the game is extremely dirty. Very, very sensual game. A lot of cussing. We had to turn on some filters for this game. It's been very fun though. I've kind of mastered getting headshots in that game, and it's kind of similar to other games where you can play it how you want, like you were saying. I made a build that's all focused on pistols and movement, so I can crouch, but also move super quick while I'm crouched. So I'm like a demon in the night, and I'm hitting headshots and doing high damage with pistols. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to play that game more, but they've gone a little above and beyond trying to make it as crude as possible. And I don't know. It's fun that's fun for a time, but it kind of gets a little bit old.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I think the game looks, it's like incredibly like beautiful, and the gameplay systems are like super impressive. Being able to drive the car around like Night City, and then you got the boxing mini game and all of the different upgrades you can do with like the mutations to your body to like replace your eyes and limbs or whatever you want to do. I think all of it's super, super cool. But yeah, that's just one of those games I've just kind of determined I don't I don't think I'd be able to just kind of handle the hardcore vibe. Like you said, I can handle that for a minute when I'm like watching Breaking Bad or something, but it's hard to play like a 40, 60, 80 hour like a game in a short time frame too, because you'll just you'll play 7 hours a day for a week and finish something. So that's probably a lot, I would imagine. Cool. Well, you've had quite a smattering there of
I be gaming.
Yeah, you do be gaming. Make sure to check out Devin, who do be gaming, on Twitch, Player Forward, and on TikTok at Player Forward TV. He streams Monday through Friday at around, remind me, 6 a.m. Pacific.
Whenever I feel like waking up. No. It's supposed to be like 6 to 7 a.m. Mountain Time.
Okay, which would be 5 or 6 a.m. Pacific Time. Somewhere in the morning, Cool. For me, I've only been playing one video game this last week. I had another segment of my Animal Well playthrough go up on YouTube. I've talked about this game extensively, so I won't talk too much more about it. But just that it continues to be amazing. The puzzles get way deeper as you get past kind of the original main quest ending. I'm actually keeping notes. I have this notepad here where you can see my like scribbles of what do different things mean, and I won't keep them on the screen too long, but like I've written crow and duck and rabbit and different directions here, because you kind of have to.
Wow, that's dedication.
You have to cross-reference and remember some things, and you could do it with like a screenshot, but I've just found it's easier for me to either take a picture with my phone or write it down, because then you've got to go somewhere else on the map, right? And kind of hard to remember that unless you've written it down. So yeah, it's really great. I like how you also start to be able to move around the map a lot faster in the end game too, without saying too much. So as you start to slowly uncover these more elaborate and difficult puzzles, you can get to like the areas you need to faster, which is really handy. Animal Well's great. If you love puzzle games, I think it's a must play as a puzzle game. A lot of people have been calling it a Metroidvania, and I can see why, right? You get items, and those items help you to unlock new areas of the map, and it has like a big scrolling map like a Hollow Knight or something does, even though the map's quite a bit smaller than something like that. I wouldn't go in with that Metroidvania expectation. It's basically a no combat puzzle game where you control a character, and there is kind of a Metroidvania map system. But don't go in thinking you're going to be slashing and blocking and dodging. It's, first and foremost a puzzle game with a Metroidvania map, like I said. So that game is so good. Recommend it to everybody. I'm going to say it again. If you have PlayStation Plus, it is free on Extra, the middle tier. Play it for free if you have Extra. It is definitely worth free. It's definitely worth the $25 it costs if you're buying it not for free. And it might even be on sale sometime soon. And then it's definitely worth that price too. I hope they raise the price during the sale. It should be $35 during the sale, and it's still worth that amount. So buy it. The other thing I've been playing, I have one board game I played this week. It's also one I've talked about a lot recently. Just a little tangent here. I do have a delivery of board games coming. It depends on a couple of things. They hold your order if your order contains a pre-order item. And one of the 7 or 8 games I got is a pre-order, but the pre-order is supposed to release in June sometime. So whenever that game is out of pre-order status, they will send my entire kind of 20-pound giant package of board games. Anyone that buys board games regularly does this, but board game shops generally have better prices than Amazon. Like Game Nerds or Miniature Market or Tabletop Merchant are 3 that I've used pretty often. But they generally don't have free shipping because shipping stuff is expensive, and shipping heavy boxes full of heavy cardboard is also even more expensive. It's not like this is a piece of mail or a DVD I'm buying from Amazon. They're heavy. They might be 5 pounds each or something. So shipping on these sites is usually not free unless you get beyond some dollar threshold, like $75, $100, $150. So usually I kind of keep these games in a wish list of sorts until I can get past that threshold so that I can get them for free shipping at the better prices that these shops have. So that's why, you order 6 or 7 at a time, and because you might be a little obsessed, but that's one thing to do. So a lot of new board games coming, which will be fun. I'll have some unboxings and new stuff up on Gaming Top Down, and some new games to play. The game I did play this last week, I played a 2-player game of The White Castle, which I've talked about a lot. It is a dice drafting game. You take a die off one of the 3 bridges, and then you put it somewhere on the board in one of the 5 White Castle rooms, or one of 2 other special spots. And then you do something based on which die you took and where you place it. Game is wonderful. I really like it. In 3 and 4 players, I really love it. The 2-player game that I played with Lacey, and it's actually what we recorded for Super Game Brothers Advance this last week. So if you want to see me play through a board game with my wife, that's what we did. We played it. I played through it together. It is up on Patreon, patreon.com/supergamebrothers. I think it took us about 45 minutes to an hour maybe to play through that game. In 2 players, they changed one rule, which makes it a lot tighter and potentially a lot meaner. In a 3 or 4 player game, when you take a die from the bridge, you can place it in a room. And then on a later turn, someone else can take a die from the bridge and stack it on top of your die. So each room basically can take 2 actions. And there's 5 rooms, like I said, so there's kind of 10 actions. In a 2-player game, no stacking is allowed. And so once Lacey puts a die in a room, I cannot use any of the actions in that room for the entire round. And there's only 3 rounds in the game. And so it gets way more difficult because this game's all about planning these combo turns where, okay, I've saved up the pearls I need to do this, which will let me do this, which will let me do this and activate that room, and then let me do this. And so your combos just break a lot easier because the rooms get locked down and can't be used. So I don't like this game as much at 2 players, to be honest. But it was still a fun time to play with Lacey. She's great, and we had a fun time playing it. I think this is in the future going to be a 3 and 4 player game for me, or a solo game. It has a good solo mode, but 3 and 4 players is where this game's at. White Castle is still great. I have a review up on Gaming Top Down and that playthrough up on Patreon, where it will be exclusive for at least a month before it will probably come over to my board game channel. So that is the games we've been playing this last week. Really quickly, there's a couple items in board game news that we're going to go over before Devin pulls up these conferences and we talk about all of the video game stuff. In board game news, we've got number 1. There's this website I use pretty often to plan this show called Dicebreaker. They do a really good job. They present the news. They have some good editors and stuff over there. I think 3 weeks ago, either Dicebreaker or Dicebreaker's parent company was purchased by IGN. And after the purchasing, a lot of the staff at the different sites that IGN has bought are being let go because they're redundant, right? IGN already has a few people that write about board games and stuff, so they obviously don't need everything. So Dicebreaker's kind of been on hold. They haven't published a new article or video since that purchase. And I think just this last week, a couple of the main editors over there said that they had been let go, and the main video creator. So at least 3 of the 5, I believe, people that ran that site are gone. So that's kind of a bummer. I really like that site, like I said, and I don't like, the big guy, the monopoly, kind of the gorilla in the room, just kind of gobbling everything up. But I guess good for the people that made all the money selling Dicebreaker and whatever else they sold to IGN, but stinks for the people in the trenches doing the work who probably didn't make any money from that acquisition and then were let go. So that's always a bummer. So I wanted to call that out as kind of a bummer. Number 2, Unfathomable, is a pretty popular board game from a few years ago. You play as like crew on this ship, and there are big scary creatures in the ocean trying to, I think, break the ship and hurt you as the members of the ship. And so you this is a board game that says it's competitive and cooperative, which is a genre of board game I have not gotten really into. I'm very picky with cooperative games, and I haven't really tried many that try to be both. So in this game, you're trying to win and get the most points. So it is competitive. You're trying to beat your opponent or the other people playing. But you kind of work together at the same time to defeat these monsters that are hurting the boat. You, as a team, have to use a shared pool of resources, I believe. But then 1 or 2 of the players will be, what is it called? Like a betrayer who's trying to, similar to something like Among Us or Werewolf or Secret Hitler, these famous games that have used this kind of social deduction, hidden roles, betrayer isn't the right word, but I'm going to keep saying it because I can't think of the right word. So you have to try to discern which of the people you're playing with is trying to sabotage the mission. And if you can figure that out, I think you get some kind of bonus as well. So kind of a cool idea for a game, but I think it takes the right kind of social group for somebody that isn't just the loudest and most aggressive of the social group to just kind of dominate social deduction games. So I haven't played Unfathomable. That was a lot of background about it. It's getting a new expansion called From the Abyss. It is available to purchase now from Fantasy Flight Games store, and at retail it adds some new threats, new resources, new cards for the Mythos deck, prelude cards that kind of modify the starting position for some more variability, and 8 new playable characters. So if you like Unfathomable, you have that to look forward to. Check that out. And then the last one, I put this on here just because Zoo Tycoon I think was a cool game back in the day. It was made into a board game a couple years ago. I don't think that it reviewed very well. I know that Dice Tower and Tom Vassell didn't really like it. Said it was more complicated than it needed to be. And there are other games that kind of do what it was trying to do better. But anyways, if you like Zoo Tycoon, that's great. It's getting an expansion as well called New Shores, which adds kind of water animals and a focus on that kind of animal. And that is also going to launch on Kickstarter on July 2nd. So if you like a Zoo Tycoon, the board game, look out for that one. Okay, those were the 3 board game items for the week. Last one, we're going to go over Crowdfunding Corner, which we always do. And this week, I'm only going to go over one. This is probably the biggest game of, the month. And yeah, this will be good. Devin can pull it up on the screen, maybe even. So I'll move.
Oh, I got it up here.
And this will be a good time to make that transition. This game is called Grimcoven by Awaken Realms. Awaken Realms makes very big, bombastic games with humongous and fancy miniatures. They have made some games that people really love. One of them is called Nemesis. And in that game, it's basically Alien, the board game. You have to protect your ship from these invading aliens. And it's kind of a semi-co-op where you're all working together to make sure the ship doesn't break down, but somebody might be trying to backstab the rest of the group. But the aliens are usually what ends up killing you. That one is very popular and famous. It's had 2 or 3 versions and expansions. They also did ISS Vanguard, I think, just last year, which is a big game. Devin, what does this game, just on first blush,
I mean, it is Bloodborne to a T.
How blatant is that picture we're looking at right now?
Oh, my goodness. 3
of what they call hunters who are obsessed with the hunt, standing in front of a big Gothic castle, which is right in front of a giant red moon.
It's crazy that no one else has made a game like this yet. That's nuts.
I mean, there has been it is true. Yeah, never seen this before. Lots of black robes and guns that turn into swords and stuff. I am really surprised.
It looks amazing.
It really does. I'm really surprised that Sony doesn't step in and be like, yo, you got to move the moon or something. Like, this is a little too on the nose. They try to separate it a little bit by, instead of collecting blood echoes like you do in Bloodborne, you collect lament. And I'm like, okay, that's like basically the same thing. But anyways, it does look pretty cool. It's a big game that has kind of a retail version that has cardboard standees for all the players and the enemies, but I don't think anyone that plays an Awaken Realms game really buys their $50 retail version. They're buying that $200 version that comes with the 30 awesome miniatures and the fancy boards and the marbled dice and the play mats and all kinds of stuff. How this game works is it is a boss battler. So you kind of start with a map, and there will be a boss that has a bunch of adds, so minions and maybe a couple of elite minions, and you have to fight them. And if you defeat the boss, then you win the scenario, and if you die, then you obviously didn't win the scenario. I have not played many boss battlers because most of them also employ this, we're going to throw in 50 miniatures and make this game cost $300 or $400. And I struggle with, I don't know, it starts to feel like a turn-based video game, which I guess is in essence what a board game kind of is. But when it's this on the nose, I'm like, man, I could just be playing Bloodborne. Or this, plays a lot like, who makes those really good computer RPGs? It's like Divinity Original Sin or Baldur's Gate, right? I'm like, in that scenario, I'd rather play the video game and let the video game take care of all the die rolls, all the math, all of the administration. But I don't know. Maybe I would like a boss battler. I've just never played one. This, if I was going to try one, this is the one I'd want to try. Or the one that, Devin, you have. You have the Bloodborne game. And maybe we should try that to figure out if we like boss battlers, because I haven't really tried it.
Yeah, we could do that for an advanced episode.
Yeah, that would be fun. It has some cool miniatures, too. Not to this level, for sure, but it has some fun ones.
These are very detailed.
Yeah. This one is it's driving me nuts because I want it, but I can't afford it. Like, it's the hard part is that pledge you're on the right of your screen is $199, right? It comes with the game, and this is the special edition of the game that comes with all the minis. Comes with the playmats and like an art book and a couple of other things. But then they get you a couple of other ways. Their miniatures come in 2 different versions. They have like solid gray, just like regular minis, so that most people would paint if you're really into miniatures. Or they have these ones that I think they call Sun Drip that have kind of this cool kind of orangey gray that kind of accents all of the contours for people that don't plan on painting, so that they still look cool even if you're not going to paint them. And the Sun Drip models are like 40 or 50 bucks more. And that's definitely the ones you would want. Unless you're really into painting. I have zero artistic ability, so I don't think I want to paint those, even though that might be a fun thing to also try and do one day and film, and everyone could laugh at our terrible painting. But anyways, yeah, the art in the game is really cool. I mean, again, how much can you rip off Bloodborne? It has this cool feature where you have this nice board that tracks everything for you, and you roll your dice on your turn, and they go in this special slot on the left of your board. As you defeat monsters or move to certain spots on the map that have these red lament tokens, you gather more and more of this lament. Oh, and that picture right there, Devin, you're looking at. When you get past, I think, 10 lament, your character transforms. So you flip the board over to your like beast, like transformed side, and a different miniature would be replaced with yours. And your character becomes stronger, but like more dangerous and risky to use. You might accidentally hurt your teammates and things like that. So it looks pretty cool. I need to watch a couple more gameplay videos of it just to see if I think I would like it, because I'm uber torn with this one. I actually have it backed at this point. I have a pledge, but how Kickstarter and GameFound work is you, during like the month that the campaign's running, you can say, yeah, I'll pledge, but they don't pull your money or anything until the campaign ends. So you kind of have a little while where you can adjust your pledge, add new things on, or cancel your pledge or whatever. I'm planning on canceling it at this point unless I really get sucked in. It does look really cool though.
It looks so cool. I'm losing my mind. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it does. So I don't know. Maybe we should get it, and maybe we'd love it. I just don't know. It definitely looks like a Bloodborne Devin game though. There's
oh my gosh, this aesthetic is so amazing to me. I just love my horror stuff and this gothic look.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. And those minis, they are something else. So yeah, I'm super torn by this one, but it was the one I wanted to call out this week. It's the one I mentioned last week, Devin, that I thought you were gonna like.
Okay.
Because yeah, it's pretty awesome, and you wouldn't even really look at that standee next to that. Scroll back up just a tiny bit, a little bit more. You wouldn't want to play with that standee right there on the right, would you? That little cardboard thing.
Oh no.
Yeah, you want that big mini. They're fun. But they're a lot more expensive. I think I could get the game because I like held the art book out and a couple of the other like extra things for $250 shipped. But that's still a lot. It's a lot. I could take the playmats out, I guess, and do it for $230. But I'm like, oh, I like playmats. Like that seems like it would add some value to the organization of the play. But yeah, I don't know. Very cool looking game. If you like Bloodborne, if you like boss battlers and big board games, I think the box says it's a 2-hour play on average. And I think it comes with like 5 or 6, maybe even 7 different bosses. And then before you start, you draw a bunch of cards that dictate how the map is built that game, where different things will be placed, like chests and portals, and I think which boss is going to come out and which variant of the boss is going to come out. So supposedly there's a bunch of variability there in that it feels different if I play. Even if I've played 30 times and I've played the same boss 4 times, well, it's a different variation of that boss that does different things. I think is kind of their hope there. So yeah, I'm not sure. I want it, but I want someone to give it to me. And then I guess while you're scrolling, I just wanted to do a last call on the 3 of the ones I talked about last week. Jabawala, I think looks like a fun little family weight game. Yokai Septet is a trick taker. It has really cool art. and Apotha Bakery from last week looked really cool. And they're going to be ending soon, so make sure you check those out if you haven't yet. I am backing those ones. Still unsure on Apotha Bakery, but I'm definitely getting the other two. So, yeah, look at that thing. It looks like the Bloodstar Beast or something, a little bit with wings.
That is so amazing. It has a graveyard on its back.
Oh, it does, yeah.
Wow.
I might have sold Devin.
Yeah, I don't even like own many board games, but I might buy this one just to look at it.
Yeah, it's very cool. And all those 3D pieces, like those portals that are printed with that cool green, like I don't even know, acrylic piece in the middle. They look nice.
Wow.
Yep. So that is Grimcoven in Crowdfunding Corner today. All right. Well, now I'm calling this segment of the show, You Get a Showcase. You get a showcase. You get a showcase, much like Oprah, giving out showcases like they're candy. Because this last week, I think there was 5 different video game showcases, and they're going to be a bear to get through. We're not going to go over every game. Like I mentioned at the top, there's so many games releasing nowadays, it's impossible to know everything about everything. That didn't make a lot of sense, but it's impossible to know everything about every game. But we will stop at some points because I think some of these look really cool. The first showcase that there was, and as I'm talking about these back and forth with Devin, he's going to kind of scrub through. Again, muted, it'll just kind of be on the screen. So if you want to see a little bit of the game, then it's here. First up was one that it leaked a little bit early, like a week early, but I was like, I don't think that sounds true. But it was. It's Lego Horizon Adventures, which is a cool looking Lego game. Finally, a Lego game that like looks really beautiful. Like the graphics look great, in my opinion. And it's based on Horizon and Horizon Zero Dawn, I believe, the first one. And the interesting thing about this game is it is coming to PlayStation, PC, and Switch. I couldn't think of another time that Sony put a game on the Switch. And so it made me think that this maybe wasn't Sony's decision. They probably went to Lego, and Lego was like, yeah, we'll make your game as long as you let us put it like a few other places that will sell more copies. And I think Lego games probably do sell very well on the Switch. You know, they're generally aimed more at kids. But I think it looks really fun. I've had a really good time playing a few Lego games, and the really colorful Horizon world, I think, translates pretty well to a Lego game. This couch and online co-op comes out this holiday. Yeah, that was the first one. Lego Horizon Adventures. How do you think that looks, Devin?
Kind of amazing, to be honest, even though I didn't love Horizon. I need to give it another try.
Yeah, I've had up and downs with Horizon as well. Sometimes I feel like the game is... I struggle with all open world games sometimes, where I feel like I want this to be a little tighter. It's a little too big. You're trying to do too much sometimes. But I think that's a selling point for a lot of people, so they want to stretch it. They want to make it bigger. Sometimes I just want a tighter experience, but yeah, it looks pretty cool. Next up was a game called No More Room in Hell 2. It has permadeath. It's an 8-player zombie survival game coming out around Halloween. Yeah, it looked a little creepy, but I don't know. I didn't get much else out of the bit here. Probably not a game for me, but the permadeath like kind of twist to it is kind of interesting. I wonder how similar or different it plays to something like Left 4 Dead, because Left 4 Dead was my jam. That was way fun.
Oh, yes, 100%. I'll probably try this. I don't know. I'll check the reviews first, obviously, but...
Yeah. Next up was, I think, a fun one. In Hogwarts Legacy, there was mysteriously something missing. Devin, do you know what was missing from Hogwarts Legacy? As a trick question here. Yeah, you got it on your screen.
Voldemort.
No, Quidditch. Quidditch was missing. Yeah, and some people were pretty mad that Quidditch wasn't in the game. I think they had some reason. I don't remember. The headmaster shut down Quidditch for the year, but there is an entire Quidditch game. It's coming on September 3rd, I think, to all platforms: Switch, PC, PlayStation and Xbox. And I thought like the aesthetics look really cool and fun. I don't think this trailer showed any gameplay, and I don't know if it's like free to play or if it's a $40 game, $60 game. I maybe should have looked up some more of these details, but just from the trailer, it could be really fun. I hope that it can kind of capture what Rocket League captures with, hey, have something colorful that is easy for someone to start. Oh, look, available from day one with PlayStation Plus. So if you have PlayStation Plus, you'll be able to play it for free on day one. So that's cool. So it must not be a free game. Maybe it's $20 or $40. I don't know. But I hope, yeah, they can capture that as like anyone can play it and feel like they're having a good time, but there's a high skill ceiling. That's the way it will stick around, is if there's a lot more to the game than just, okay, I caught the snitch in 20 seconds and we win. Because that's kind of the downfall of Quidditch, in my opinion, is the randomness of the snitch. Makes for some fun books and movies, but as far as like a game is concerned, it'd be like if Luka Doncic pulled up from half court and is like, oh yeah, if I make this shot we win. And so it's just a little crazy, and technically I don't think you win. I think you get 150 points for getting the snitch, but that's usually a win.
The next game is Mousetrap, the video game.
Yeah, it kind of looks like that. It's a 20-player co-op prison escape game where you play as dudes with big mouse heads called Cuff Bust. And yeah, it just looks like a silly kind of co-op game where you're trying to escape from prison, and I'm guessing silly things happen. I think they hijack this helicopter here in a second. Looks kind of silly. Next up was a very short trailer for Star Wars Outlaws. We'll talk more about Star Wars Outlaws in a little bit because it was shown, I think, with like a 20-minute gameplay demo at the Ubisoft event a few days later. So not much here in the Summer Game Fest. Next up was a game called Neva. It's an indie game from the team that made, I think, Gree is how it's pronounced. And it's a 2D kind of artsy indie game. Looks pretty cool. I like indie artsy games, are kind of my jam. So excited to try this one out. Comes out later this year. Next up was Civilization 7. And I don't think they showed too much about it other than maybe just a cinematic trailer, but it's coming out in 2025. Civilization is a very big series, especially on a PC. So look out for that. I think Civilization 6 is on sale right now for $2.99. I've been thinking about... I just burped in the microphone. That's what happens when you drink a Mountain Dew during the show, folks. And am I going to cut that? Heck to the no. You're going to live with that burp for eternity.
That's right.
Yeah, I think I'm going to buy Civilization 6 for $3 and see if it'll run on my Rogue Ally. I wonder if it has touch controls. That might help. Okay, next up was another look at Black Myth Wukong. Oh, look, he pulls this little staff out of his ear, like it's earwax in Shrek, and then turns it into this huge staff. That was one of my notes here. I wrote earwax staff. But this game continues to look pretty cool. Hit pause really quick, Devin. There's a little bit I want to just double click on here. Oh no, I used a corporate term. Double click on. Just from my work meetings today. Another thing I want to talk about really quick. After the showcase, they announced that this game is coming to PC and PS5, but that it will not be coming to Xbox on August 20th. The reason they gave is, quote, "We apologize for the delay and aim to minimize the wait for Xbox users. We will announce the release date as soon as it meets our quality standards," end quote. And this seems like it's another game where the Series S is kind of holding the game back from being made. They don't want to release it because they're nervous it's not going to be super smooth. So yeah, just another example of the Series S kind of putting a few development teams in a weird scenario. And I think there are some other development teams that have said, yeah, it was a real struggle to get the game running in a playable state on that thing. So anyways, Series S is really cool at the price point and for some of the games you can play on it, but for really pushing next gen and for just a slight spoiler, it made me a little surprised that at the end of Xbox's showcase, they announced new hardware, new Xboxes. They're not like a pro version. It's just basically versions with more storage. And they announced another Series S. I'm like, okay, I guess they're just fully committed to that thing this whole generation. But anyways, that was another bit of controversy going on for Black Myth Wukong. Not even controversy for them. I think people are just kind of upset with the Series S. But next up was a look at a VR game that's been very popular in the VR space called Asgard's Wrath. And I guess it's available now for MetaQuest. Supposed to be a very cool game. Kind of gives me God of War, like Ragnarok vibes or something in VR. And right there, IGN called it a masterpiece. It's supposed to be great. Next game I think looks pretty cool. It was shown twice during the different showcases during this one and I can't remember which. Another one coming up. And it is called Once Human. And it is a co-op game that gives me similar vibes to Remnant. And now that Devin's scrubbing, I'm not seeing this game actually.
This? Nope, that's Space Marine.
That's Space Marine. I think you're a little too far. I think.
A little too far forward?
I think so. Maybe I've got them in the wrong order. If you push right on the keyboard, I think that'll jump 5 seconds.
Oh, amazing. What a hack.
Okay, Asgard's Wrath, we just talked about. Yeah, this one. I think this is it. Yeah, this is, unless this is still Asgard's Wrath. I think this is the Once Human game. Gives me very similar vibes to Remnant, but it's a bit different than Remnant, but it is a co-op game. Comes out on July 9th, so I mean, it's pretty dang close.
Wow.
And I think it looks pretty cool. Kind of this weird...
Can you play it solo?
That's a good question. I am not. I already know I'm going to
stream this.
We got that walking house right there. Yeah, looks funky. There are some more details about this game in a conference coming up, but it does look pretty cool. Next up in the show was the game that Devin already scrolled forward to a second ago, Warhammer Space Marine 2. Sorry, occasionally there's an ad. So I skipped the ads, but Warhammer Space Marine 2 looks really awesome, actually. I've never played the first one, and I'm not like very big into Warhammer or World of Warcraft or anything, but it looks really fun. Like, it's a third-person shooter and definitely gives me like Helldivers vibes just in the Warhammer universe. Because I think you can play co-op with friends, and you're just mowing down these monsters and bugs and stuff. Looks pretty fun, actually. That one's out on September 9th. Next up, the director of Persona came out and talked about their newest game that isn't out yet, but is coming out in October, on October 11th. That is Metaphor Refantasio. Not sure if I'm pronouncing the Refantasio word right, but they talked about it for a minute and then mentioned that they were going to have a showcase, I think, the next day. And they did, and it was like 20-25 minutes of the game shown. People are really high on this game. I think especially people that love JRPGs and love Persona are really excited for this one. I think one of the articles I read said this game's going to make the wait for Persona 6 like much more bearable because it looks awesome. And I think it's made by like almost the same team. So if you like Persona, I think this is one that you'll like. So look out for those videos on that one. Next up was Batman Arkham Shadow for MetaQuest. It is out in fall of this year, and I think it was just for MetaQuest 3, I believe. Yeah, it was a kind of interesting looking one. I don't know. There's a Batman game on PlayStation VR that was pretty good, but anytime I'm jumping around and moving around a lot in VR, I kind of get sick. But I don't know. I'm kind of an old man, and maybe if I played some more, I'd get used to that and get over it. I do think having a nicer headset than the original PlayStation VR would help with that too.
Are games that are coming to VR solely on VR? Is that the route they're taking? If they make a game for VR, is it?
Usually, yeah, because it requires quite a bit of different, like development and focus, because then you're really focused on like, okay, this needs to run at, I think VR games generally run at 120 frames per second or higher, so that you don't get sick, because if it runs lower than that, it'll cause you to get motion sickness. And then you have to focus on, okay, we got to put you at the height of the person, figure out what we want to do with their limbs, and the gameplay is just so different. It's hard to have a game that does both really well. I think even with Resident Evil, where they released like Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil Village, and then released the VR modes later, it took them quite a bit of time to like, okay, now we've got the game, we need to rework it in some way to make it work well in VR. So I don't think it's an easy thing to take a game from like flat to VR or VR to flat. But anyways, that was Batman Arkham. Next up, looks like Fatal Fury characters are coming to Street Fighter 6. Just kind of a short little teaser of that. I'm not a big fighting game person, but Street Fighter does look fun and colorful. Next up was one called Tears of Metal. And I have written down here, you play as the Scots in some really big battles, and it's a violent action game. It's a rogue-like co-op hack and slash. Yeah, it looked a little intense.
I'm still stuck on Street Fighter. They won't stop.
Yeah, Street Fighter is everywhere. And this one that you're looking at is Delta Force Hawk Ops, which is a free-to-play multiplayer shooter. I couldn't tell if it's PvP or PvE, but they do have a Black Hawk Down mission, and they're having a beta in July. So if you like first-person shooters, and this one seems like it's leaning into kind of like Ghost Recon vibes more than, or like Battlefield vibes more than like, I don't know. I'm not a first-person shooter guru, but that's the feeling I got. Next up was Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, coming out in early 2025. I was kind of surprised they didn't kind of tie this one back to Street Fighter, but maybe they wanted some separation. A new Fatal Fury game coming out early next year. I believe Fatal Fury is I can't remember if it's a 2D fighter or if it's it looks like it is a 2D fighter actually from this video. But I could have sworn there was one that is a brawler that is one of the free games this month. Nope, that's Streets of Rage. Okay, getting them mixed up. But anyways, there is a new game there if you like 2D fighting games. Next up was a game called Battle Crush. I wrote down Brawl Stars wannabe. maybe it's great, but it's coming to Steam, Switch, and mobile. Oh yeah, and you can kind of see like the colorful vibes are going for a very similar thing. There's even a barbarian-looking Viking dude. Next up was a mech combat game called Mecha Break that's having a closed beta in August. And if I'm not mistaken, this one is like a flying mech game. There were a couple mech games, so I might be mixing this one up. But man, these mechs move. Yeah, I think it's this one. They move incredibly fast. This looks like a game I would not be good at just because of the speed required. Which is one reason I haven't tried Armored Core yet. I really want to, though. Since it was made by From Software, I've heard that some people have really loved it. Even though they didn't think they were going to at first. So I need to get back to Armored Core. But yeah, this one looks, kind of similar vibes, but a bit more, I don't know, even faster maybe.
We used to play an airplane fighting game for a while that was super fun. Do you remember what it was?
Airplane fight. Was it on the original Xbox maybe?
I want to say it was an Xbox game, yeah.
I think that was Crimson Skies.
I think you're right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that game ruled. I loved that game. It was way fun. So yeah, I'm okay with like a an airplane flying game, but pretty picky with them. Next up, Bloomhouse. I actually think it's called Blomhouse. I didn't know that until they were up on stage.
Blom?
Yeah.
Since when does a U make an aw sound?
I think it's the guy who got up on stage, I think was the creator of Blomhouse, and I think they said his name was Jason Blom. I don't think it was Jason. It was something
Jason
Blum. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, the secret agent. Anyways, Blumhouse is getting into video games, and they announced, I think, 6 games here in like different genres where they're all focusing on horror because that's kind of their shtick. Some of them are more scary than others. Some are like more on the thriller side or mystery side. Some are like hardcore horror. Some of them are first person. Some of them are 2D. This one I thought looked cool. It's like PlayStation 1 graphics kind of. The games
Would you play in a Ouija board in a video game?
Oh, in a video game, yeah.
Okay. Continuing.
Would you?
Yeah, probably.
I was going to say, I bet you would, like in real life.
No, that's the one thing I'm not dabbling in.
Yeah, I don't want to touch a Ouija board. But yeah, they had a few games in that segment. One was called Pixel Art Grave Seasons. One was called Chrysal Theater of Idols. One was called Sleep Awake, Fear the Spotlight, The Simulation. And then they did announce that their Five Nights at Freddy's movie sequel is coming along. So they kind of had a sizzle reel there of those things. I think that's kind of cool. A horror like focused place doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm down.
Next up was Power Rangers Rita's Rewind. It's a game similar to that Ninja Turtles game that came out like 2 years ago. Like brawler where you can play in co-op.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Reminded me of the Ninja Turtle, or not Ninja Turtles, of the Power Rangers games we played as a little kid, even though the graphics on this one are probably way better, but that's how I remember those games, was looking like that. Mm-hmm. Next up is a game called Deer and Boy. And I don't remember what this one even was. I wrote down cool art, and a small team of 8 made it.
Here's Boy.
Yeah, I think that is Boy. And I think you like save a deer or something. Yeah, there he is. He's a little funky looking deer. And then I think you kind of
Deer's got a massive
forest. Head. Yeah. Yeah, compared to his body, he really did. But kind of an artsy like little game. I couldn't tell if it what the main gameplay mechanics were. If it's like crafting or survival or just a story. I'm not 100% sure, but the art's really
cool. Looks beautiful.
Next up was a new trailer for Kingdom Come Deliverance, which has already had quite a few trailers lately, but it's their new game in the Kingdom Come series. Kind of about historically accurate medieval times, I believe. It's kind of their shtick. Next up was a really weird game. This game was shown a long time ago, but they've been silent since. It's called Slitterhead. I think last week on the pod I said Splitterhead. There's no P in there. It's Slitterhead. And I thought it was going to be more of a horror focus, but it looks more action with with body horror. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is definitely like a horror game. There's some gross stuff popping out of people's skulls and like body horror for sure. But it looks like Devil May Cry or something mixed with horror, in my opinion, from this trailer. Not really a David game, I don't think. It looks very odd. I think the reason a lot of people have been excited for this one is it is, I think, being directed by the same guy that directed Silent Hill back in the day. So he's kind of a famous guy in game development, at least. Yeah, like look how gross that thing is. That human just turned into like a praying mantis human, and its body is still hanging underneath it. Very gross. Yeah, body horror kind of freaks me out sometimes. Like that, I don't know why. It's just like that I shouldn't look like a praying mantis. I'm a person. Next up was a game made by a single person. It's coming to early access this summer, and it's called Killer Bean. And it's basically you play as this big like kidney bean or whatever he is, and you do like kind of reminds me of what's that game series called where you have the bullet time effect because he does like the slow motion jump. It was made by Rockstar, I thought. or not Rockstar, by Remedy before they made Control and Alan Wake. They made this series of games. Oh, Max. Is Max in the title? It's not Mad Max, but it's I'm just gonna Google it while you're watching Killer Bean there on the screen. They made a long time ago.
After deep observation, I'm gonna say they're pork and beans.
Oh, okay.
They're whatever beans are used in pork and beans, same color.
Yeah. Max Payne was what I was looking for. I think Max Payne kind of created that bullet time thing where you jump and then do slow motion and shoot like 1,000 bullets while you're in the air, Matrix style. If you want to play a game made by one person as a lima bean, kidney bean, pork and bean, then that's coming out in early summer. Next one I thought looked really cool. It's a company called the Game Bakers, who I think has made a couple successful games before. This one is called Cairn, and it's all about climbing mountains and rock climbing, and like very detailed in that I think you have to move like the arms and legs individually and place your like what are those called, like your grapple points in the wall, and so you're trying to defeat the mountain basically. It was shown later during Day of the Devs with like a bit more detail, and I think it looks really cool. Depending on how it controls, could be a cool one. Next up was a game from Annapurna, who I really love. They make cool kind of indie games with a bigger budget usually. This one was called Wanderstop. It comes out this year on PlayStation and Steam, and this one's made by the same company that made, or the same developers that made the Stanley Parable, which is a very well-loved kind of puzzle game with not even puzzle game, kind of a walking simulator game where you're reading notes on computers and stuff that supposedly has a really big twist. I haven't played the Stanley Parable, but even at the end of this trailer, Jeff Keighley said, that one looks really great. I'm really excited to see what the twist is in this one. So it seems like there's something. This girl mentions that she's running this shop, I think making coffee and stuff, to try and not think about her time as a fighter protecting the city, and then she kind of like has like a little PTSD like attack there on the bench at the end. So something's going on. It looks pretty cool. Next up was a game called Unknown 9 Awakening. Kind of a weird name. This one I wrote down as Uncharted in India, because it kind of looks like that to me. There's like a little bit of a supernatural element, but it looks like these big kind of rooms and caves that you're exploring, and a bad guy with guns and stuff. Looks like it could be, pretty fun. It's made by, it's coming out in fall of this year, console and PC. The only thing I didn't love about this game, I didn't think the facial animations looked that great. Some of the faces I thought looked a little janky, but they have a little time. Hopefully they can clean that up, because it looks like it could be pretty fun. Next up was a really weird one to stick in the middle. It said, like, come and check out Monster Hunter Stories, which I'm not even sure what that is. If it's like a mobile version game of Monster Hunter. And we're having a Capcom sale. They just showed some stuff that's on sale from Capcom. Next up was a steampunk kind of fantasy looking Souls-like game called Enotria, the Last Song. Coming to console and PC. And it had a cool vibe with all these people wearing masks. I think this guy comes into this big room and defeats this boss and takes his mask from him. It's, again, just a cinematic, so can't get too excited until you see gameplay, but the vibe's kind of cool. Kind of reminds me of Lies of P a little bit. In that, kind of puppet mask robot kind of vibe. So hopefully it can be as good as Lies of P, because that one was excelente. Next up was one called The First Descendant, which I think is a free-to-play action game. It's a looter shooter, so like Borderlands style, where you're getting new loot, co-op. And it looked to me like, this is what I wrote down, Stellar Blade meets Metal Gear / Final Fantasy 15. That's kind of the vibes I got from this one. Some weird.
Well put.
Yeah, I mean, the graphics look very pretty in like the cinematic cutscenes, at least. I don't think they showed really any gameplay in this trailer, though. Yeah, very Metal Gear as well, with like weird costumes and stuff. I don't know, very Japanese, I guess. That one comes out on July 2nd, so it's almost here already. Some people probably already knew about this one, but I was not one of them. I had never heard of it. Next up, I thought was a really cool thing. The company that made Among Us, I think it's primarily these two people. They might have had a slightly bigger team. They're a little team called Inner Sloth, and they've obviously made so much stinking money, even though their game only cost $5. I can't even imagine how much they've made because that thing sold like crazy. They announced that they are starting a small indie game publisher called Outer Sloth, where they will help fund other indie games that are struggling to find funding. The quote that they gave was, "We're hoping to help other indie teams get, quote, good deals like the ones we were looking for when we needed money." So hopefully that is true. And they announced, I think, 6 or 7 games here as their first games that they're funding. And some of them look kind of fun and silly. You got Mars' First Logistics, Battlesuit Aces, Mossfield Archives, One Button Bosses, Rogue Eclipse, and Project Dosa. And yeah, they just very much look like quirky, unique indie games for sure. A couple of them I thought looked really cool though. So hopefully those Outer Sloth games will be good. And I'm always rooting for the small team, even though now they're incredibly wealthy. I do hope that they continue to share the love, it looks like, a little bit. That Project Dosa one, I think, looks really cool. You have that weird little robot mech that you're kind of riding around in this very colorful little island town, swinging on zip lines. Yeah, looks pretty cool. They also said that they didn't say actually. They showed a little sneak peek of the Among Us TV show. I don't think it had any like words in it. It was just like some example footage, but it looks kind of funny and silly. And at the end, it listed all of the actors that are doing the voices. Man, some big names. You got Patton Oswalt, Ashley Johnson does Ellie in The Last of Us, Deborah Wilson, Dan Stevens, Elijah Wood, Wayne Knight. Wayne Knight is what's his name? Oh my heck, my mind is betraying me from my favorite TV show of all time. Oh, I remember. He's Newman from Seinfeld. He's also the character in Jurassic Park that tries to steal all the bio-frozen dinosaurs and gets eaten by the black one that spits the dinosaur that spits the black goo. That's Wayne Knight. So they got some big names in there in that TV show. Hopefully it can be fun. I don't know how a TV show about that would be that entertaining, but maybe the whole season they're like looking for the traitor. I'm not sure. Next up was Sonic X Shadow Generations. I don't know a ton about Sonic games, but this looked like it was kind of a remaster of a couple earlier Sonic games, maybe from the GameCube or Dreamcast or something. It's out on October 25th on console and PC. Next was Dune Awakening, which is a big game based on the Dune license that's coming out from a company called Funcom. And I guess I didn't know this, but it's an open world MMO. And so I don't know if I will be that into it because of that. But the cinematics here look very pretty. And it sounded like from the trailer that the story they're going for is Paul can see all of these, different dimensions basically, to see different paths of decisions and what would have happened if certain decisions were made. And I guess the only path that he can see where the world doesn't end is one where he wasn't born. Instead, they had a daughter instead. I'm really obsessed with Dune right now. I think those two movies are great. And there's a Dune board game, Dune Imperium, that I've really loved lately. So I'm hopeful that this can be cool, but I have never gotten into an MMO. and I don't know if I could. Maybe I could. I don't know. I just don't know if it's in me. But I guess you never know if you never try. So we'll see. Next was Battle Aces, which I don't think they showed much other than... Oh, actually they did. They showed this cool kind of cinematic anime-looking trailer, and then they show some gameplay right after it. This is an RTS game, a real-time strategy game. So similar to something like StarCraft, or I'm trying to think of another one, Command and Conquer, I think are other famous ones. They said that what they're trying to do is to make an RTS game for everyone. And the thing that kind of stood out to me, Devin, was they said that they're going to be making different unit decks. So you kind of make your deck of troops and stuff that you want to have in your battalion before you go into the fight. And then you go into the fight and do the real-time strategy stuff. And Devin's all about the deck builders, kind of, with if it's anything like Clash Royale.
I put too much time into that game.
Yeah, maybe Battle Aces will be your new thing. But who knows? Whenever a company makes a promise like that, it's for everyone. It's a real-time strategy game everyone can play. I'm like, that's a big promise. So we'll see. I didn't write down here a release date, so I don't think they said, actually. Maybe they didn't, I missed it. Next one wasn't a big deal for me, really, but Season 3 for the finals starts on June 13th. It looks like it comes with a new mode, new terminal called Terminal Attack, I believe. Some new weapons, swords, and samurai gear. It's like samurais are kind of the focus of that season. Okay, next up, we already kind of briefly talked about this, but Sam Lake came out and he announced Alan Wake 2's expansion, Night Springs, which are those 3 different what-if episodes with the 3 different characters. They also announced that Alan Wake 2 is finally getting a physical version, which it did not have. It was digital only. So, cool thing there. That DLC pack is available now. It was, I think, available the next day or same day in a shadow drop, which is cool. I think last year or the year before, New World came out on PC and was very big. I don't know much about it because I don't play a lot of PC only games necessarily, unless they're small indie games. New World Eternum is coming to console on October 15th. I'm guessing that'll be a big deal because I think that, like I mentioned, that game was pretty big, at least on like Twitch for the little while that it came out, unless Amazon was just paying all these streamers, play our game. But it seemed like it made a big splash. Do you remember that, Devin?
I do, yeah. I never played it, but I remember everyone did, though.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I got too. So hopefully it's cool. I don't even know if it's a free to play game or if it costs 50, 60, 70 bucks. I'm not even sure. All right, next up was Honkai Star Rail announced a new something, is what I wrote down. I don't even know what it was. I think it's a new character pack. I don't know. So someone write in and let me know if you know what it was. I really think the animation style in this game is very pretty, like super, super cool looking. I just can't get into a gacha game, or I will be broker than I am if I ended up liking it. So it's kind of my hold up there. Next up was a game called Dark and Darker. It's a dungeon crawl game with competitive multiplayer, and it's free to play on Steam and Epic, and it's live right now, actually. I thought this looked pretty unique. You kind of go through this dungeon. It kind of looks like Skyrim. You're holding like a sword and a shield, kind of first person mode, and trying to get like cool loot and stuff. And I think you can play co-op with some people, but then maybe I'm mistaking that. Maybe the other player characters were all trying to steal your stuff. I can't remember for sure, but there is some competitive multiplayer element to it. Cool idea. Next up was a game from Capcom called Kunitsu Gami, Path of the Goddess. And it is out on July 19th. And I don't know really anything about this game, but I kind of liked the really weird art style that it has. Kind of a Japanese art style, and some of the sections looked like they were 2D, where you could only go left and right like a Metroidvania game, but then it kind of became 3D at some of these spots as like a hack and slash game with weird monsters you're fighting. A little hard to know for sure, but that one is out in July, so pretty quick. Next up was Hyperlight Breaker. I really loved Hyperlight Drifter. I'm not even sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if this game is even made by the same team. I imagine it is because they probably own that property. But in this game, instead of being kind of top down like Hyperlight Drifter, it's a campaign co-op game. So you can play with, I think, up to 2 friends. Early access, late summer. Next up was Party Animals is getting an update. This is kind of a silly party game where you control a silly animal, might be a corgi or a penguin or a crocodile, and you're trying to throw each other off airplanes or something. It has these weird physics mechanics where you grab and like probably control like each limb separately. Those kind of puzzle games or party games, can be really fun. I usually get them, fall off them, and then try them again a year or two later. And I'm like, yeah, these are a good time for half an hour. I think Super Pawers is what they said is the new thing, like a superpower with a dog paw. Kind of the pun there. So if you like party animals, I think Human Fall Flat, and I'm trying to think of the other game that these guys made, or that kind of has the similar vibe. I love the vibe. I think the vibe's really cool.
Oh, it's super funny.
Next up was a really funny segment of the game. Company logo for M Corp came up, and then Tim Robinson, who I love, I think he's one of the funniest people ever, pops in the screen and starts talking about this company called M Corp and how they're supposedly a really great company, and all these rumors about them are not true. And then like all the lights turn off. It's a kind of a funny bit, and I was like, that was a random bit to have. Maybe they're like talking about, I think you should leave season 5 or something for him. But it turns out right after that little skit ended, they showed Skate from EA, and I guess in the game Skate, there is this evil M Corp company that you're kind of skating against, I guess. So there was a brief look at Skate. It looks like it's very much focused on multiplayer. There are a lot of people skating around at the same time, and I know Skate is pretty well loved in like the skateboarding video game scene for being pretty hardcore. Like the way that you move the sticks kind of dictates the flips and stuff you're doing, and I think it's supposed to be a lot more like realistic than Tony Hawk. I think they said they're having a playtest this fall on console for that game. Next up was an update on Pal World, and I think it was just a new island. The update's called Sakurajima. New buildings, new level cap, some subspecies, and a new raid. And what did I write here? I guess a new stronghold called the Oil Rig. Lots of oil rigs going on right now, which they're kind of a creepy thing. So
lots of oil rigs and samurais right now in games.
Yeah, yep. A new arena, new faction, and a boss. It's out on June 27th. If you like Pal World, I think Pal World looks really cool, except for the environments. I think everything that isn't the character and isn't the pals looks like kind of bland, in my opinion. And that's kind of the problem I have with Pokemon too. I'm like, yeah, the Pokemon are cool, but then I have to run around this really boring world for half an hour. I don't know, maybe that's a personal thing, but
yeah, I feel that.
All right, next up was Valorant, which is, in kind of a cool move, coming to console. It's having a free limited beta on June 14th, and they just said it's launching this year on console. They didn't say when. Kind of the controversy about that is they're not introducing gyro aiming, which for competitive shooters on console, most people like to have gyro aiming because it kind of helps with the fine minutia that mouse and keyboard, excels at. And the reason why, I think, was the kind of the controversial thing here. Someone asked about it on Twitter and were saying this is like something you should really put in the game. Like it's a feature that's pretty easy to implement and seems like a blind spot if you're missing it. And one of the senior developers on the game tweeted back, not a blind spot for us for what it's worth, but it's not supported on Xbox controllers natively. If we lean super hard into gyro being the way to play on console, we'd be heavily favoring PS5 over Xbox, which we don't want to do. Gyro tech is cool, especially with ratcheting, flick stick, etc. End quote. I really like gyro aiming, which sounds weird, but when I play Zelda, either Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, I always have the gyro aiming on. It just helps with the little, like I'll get most of the way there with the stick, but then I can just move my hand just a little bit to finish my aiming. And I played the same way when I played Splatoon. And yeah, I just think I can be a lot more accurate with gyro aiming. So I was a little bummed about that. I think Valorant is much too fast-paced and a precision-oriented game for me. But maybe on console it will be a little more forgiving since everybody's struggling with the sticks at the same time. I don't know. I know you've played Valorant before, Devin, and I think enjoyed it at least a bit.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll play it on PlayStation or anywhere else?
I might get around to it. Maybe.
Maybe. I like the vibe. I think it's very cool and colorful, but yeah, maybe a little too hardcore for me. Next up was a weird kind of plug here. They had this voice actor that's in a lot of video games in this in the audience, and Jeff called him out and said he's going to be in this movie. He's in Inside Out 2, which is actually really cool. He plays this video game character in the movie. So they had a little clip from Inside Out 2. Hopefully Disney paid Jeff a lot of money for that. I really like Inside Out, so I'm kind of excited to see Inside Out 2. I think that one and the music in Inside Out and that score is like, I think one of the best like little melodies in a Pixar movie. I think it's Pixar, right? That one's not Disney's studio. I think it's Pixar. It doesn't matter. Tangent. Next up was a very silly trailer for Squad Busters. It's really funny that they have, I don't know that guy's name, but he's hilarious. And then Chris Hemsworth and Will Arnett are both in the advertisement for this game as well. Chris Hemsworth is like the barbarian character, and Will Arnett, I think, is the one on the right. So they threw a lot of money at advertisement for this game. Obviously, Supercell has all the money in the world from their successful games. From Devin, yeah, playing Clash.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the ads look really cool, but I think the game looks super boring. I don't know why. Every time I see this game, I'm like, it looks exactly like Brawl Stars, and I didn't vibe with that one.
I didn't even get through the tutorial. I just went right back to Clash Royale. I tried it for a second and was like, I'm going to go play the Clash. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand why people like playing a game that requires that kind of precision without a joystick. I don't know. Like Clash makes sense because you're like controlling your deck and then you're placing your cards out with your finger, which is fine. It just kind of simulates a mouse click. You're not having to move anything with a joystick or anything. I feel like they should make games that are best for the platform they put them on. And this game feels like it would be best on a console where I can use a controller. I mean, I guess you can use a controller on your phone or iPad, but I don't feel like most people do. I don't know. They're making all the money in the world, so they're like, David, shut up. We're going to put it where we want, and we'll make way more money than you because we're smarter than you. And I guess I can't disagree. All right, 2 more games for Summer Game Fest, and then we're finished with that one, which is the biggest of the shows. Monster Hunter Wilds got another trailer. Game continues to look cool. I've never gotten into Monster Hunter. Maybe since Rise is free on PlayStation Plus, maybe that'll hook us, and then we'll be more excited about this one. The only note I wrote here was Taco Bell Cinnamon Twist enemy. And these enemies jumping through the sand just reminded me of those like crunchy cinnamon twist things from Taco Bell. So there you go. That's all I got for Monster Hunter Wilds. But it looks pretty cool. Riding the funky little alligator birds through the desert.
Yeah, it looks sweet. Dang.
And then last up is a game called Phantom Blade Zero. that I think has been shown before. I think Jeff mentioned it was at Sony's presentation last year. And it got a gameplay trailer, I believe. Super cool vibe. It looks like Sekiro to me, just with maybe a little more. If you mix Sekiro and Ghost of Tsushima, I feel like that you'd get this game maybe. Or Sekiro and Black Myth Wukong. I don't know. A lot of these games are kind of going after the same vibe, but the trailer looks really cool. There's some crazy looking bosses. One of them is a lady with swords attached to her shoes, and she like walks on them and attacks with them at the same time. I'm just like, oh, is that her? No, that's not her. You'll see her in just a second, but like that's creative, but I don't know if that's very efficient for a fight with a sword.
No, that's a weird place to put your swords.
Yeah, but I think the combat in the game looks really cool. And it looks super fast paced. It looks like Sekiro to me. There's like a lot of the get in there close, do your parries perfectly, and then when you've got an opening, like do as much damage as you can. Looks very cool. There's the Jade Dancer. Very unique. Anyways, that was the Summer Game Fest showcase. All right. Before we hop into the next one, and the next two were small indie ones, so we'll go through them real quick. They just went right after Summer Game Fest. And maybe we won't even hit on every game. I just feel like people spend a lot of time making these games. I feel like I should at least say their name. Like, okay, this game was next, or this game was next. But I guess just going back to Summer Game Fest for a second, how do you think, after skimming through those games, how do you think that showcase was? Maybe even comparing to Sony's State of Play a couple weeks ago.
Way better than Sony's show.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Sony's show was kind of a dud, a little bit. There's a lot here. I'm looking through all the names. Hard to really choose what I'm looking forward to. But I think there's a couple winners in there for me. There's a couple games that targeted the horror genre. And then like Black Myth Wukong, I definitely want to see if the gameplay is going to be dope. And then this Phantom Blade game looks right up my alley. Monster Hunter, I mean, decent show, I think. Yeah,
I agree. I thought it was pretty good as well. Definitely some indie games that I thought looked cool. That Lego Horizon game that they opened with, I thought looked super solid. So excited about that. After Summer Game Fest, they go right into Day of the Devs, which is basically indie developers can submit their games, and then other indie developers, I think, nominate which games should be in this showcase. So it's basically an indie showcase, and then right after that is Devolver Digital's presentation, and theirs is so funny every year. They do the weirdest kind of presentations, and we'll get to theirs in a second. So Day of the Devs announced 20 games. Some of these I'll go through really quick. First one was a new game from Capybara Games. I love Capybara. One of their last games was Grindstone. They also did, what's that game called? Super Time Force Ultra, I believe, quite a while ago. But Grindstone is a puzzle game where you play it. It's kind of like a match 3 puzzle game. It was on iOS first and then came to console later. But this one, Battle Vision Network, is their new game, and it looks super awesome. Game totally for David that I think is perfect for phones. It looks like Grindstone. You're kind of matching either in a row or a column different colors of creatures, and you create a deck before you go into these fights. These are one-on-one fights against a real opponent. So similar to something like Clash. Make a deck, and then you have to match these colors of creatures to activate your abilities. If you match creatures in a vertical line, then it does an attack towards the other side. If you match creatures in a horizontal line, then it creates like defense. So you kind of get to decide what you're going to focus on each turn. And they showed their old game here, Might and Magic, that was, I think 10 years old or something, and how that kind of inspired it. But I'm very excited about this one. It's not coming out till next year, and it's going to be on mobile, on PC, and on console. That looks like a mobile game for David that I'll really like. Capybara makes great stuff. Next up was another look at Cairn, that rock climbing game where they went a little more in depth about like what happens when you fall, and it like shows you this graphic of all of the different routes you've taken. So it's kind of like I think they even say like the mountain face that you're climbing we see as a boss. Like you struggled with this one path and you tried it a few times, and we show you that in red when you fall. And so now you try another path, and like you can see which one you got further on and where you might want to change your strategy. You only have so many of those anchor points that you can put in, and you have to manage your stamina, I believe. So I don't know. It could be really cool, or it could kind of flop, but it seems like they know what they're doing. So that one looks pretty cool. Next up was a very indie looking game called Pedal Runner. And it definitely has a Pokemon retro vibe. Very pixelated, pixel art graphics. You deliver pets, play a little Guitar Hero like game and other mini games to deliver these pets around this city. I did like, this is kind of a cinematic in the game. In a second, it'll shift to very much old Pokemon looking pixel art.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. I love the way that looks, but some people get turned off by that. It kind of looks like it has a little like halfway open world vibe though. You get to drive your cool little pixelated car across these highways to deliver these pets. I hope they show it here in a second for you, because I thought that looked really cool to drive those. Kind of like Pokemon, but in Pokemon you didn't have a car and different. It's just fun to see what like a game made in those stylings can be like with like modern technology. They're not limited by I can only have this many colors or that. Yeah, so he's like riding on the highway and like scooting around to different places. Next up was a game called Karma: The Dark World. It's a creepy first-person horror game coming to console and PC. There were a few horror games in these next presentations, so I don't remember exactly which one this one was. But next up is one I'm very excited about. It's called UFO 50. And it is a collection of 50 games. And I can't tell if it was made by this person I'm going to say, or if he's just kind of the organizer and they worked together with 50 other people to make these games. But it's a collection of 50 games. You buy this set called UFO 50, and then all 50 games are available, and they kind of tell like one connected story as you play through them. And they said our goal was some of the games are long, some of them are, arcade style, but every game is a full game that like has time and credits. And that guy on the left there, his name's Derek Yu, I believe. He made Spelunky and Spelunky 2. And I think generally made most of like Spelunky by himself. Like super smart guy, like knows a lot about games. And he's one of the two visionaries behind this project. So I'm very excited about this project. I don't know much more about it other than it's coming to Steam on September 9th. And oh yeah, they just showed on the screen there Ubisoft. And the idea is that there's this fake company called Ubisoft that makes this fake console called like the Ubisoft 200 or something. And then all of these games were supposedly released for that platform over like a decade. And so they slowly get like better and better and better in graphics and like what they can do, because it's kind of simulating that. So very cool idea. Next up was a small game called Cozy Grove. This is a game being funded by Netflix. The company that's making it is called Spry Fox, and they make some really cool puzzle games. So I think Cozy Grove is more of a like Animal Crossing kind of sim where you talk to people in the town and build your little camp and stuff. Next up was Koira, where you play as this little shadow person and their dog across this, and you're trying to like make your way through this forest. And they said every creature in the game is voiced by a different musical instrument, so they make like different noises. So it looked it's very cute, and the audio to it I thought sounded really cool as well. Next up was a game called Arranger. I think it had more to the title that I maybe missed, but this one looks really cool. The person that did the Arranger, a role puzzling adventure, I think it comes out where did I put that? On July 25th. The artist who did the art in the game Braid did the art in this game, so it has that same kind of shiny, sparkly aesthetic to it. It looks beautiful. And it's a game where you're kind of like going through these dungeons and solving puzzles on this grid. But it's a puzzle game in that whenever you move horizontally or vertically on this grid, everything slides with you like a slide puzzle. So it's like I think you're muted, Devin.
I am muted. That is very complex. That is crazy.
Yeah, so she's like going, since you wrap around to the other side, she's like going through to other rooms and stuff. That's a David game, hardcore. So I'm excited to try that one. And what day did I say? July 25th. Okay, next, Blumhouse came up again and showed Fear the Spotlight a little bit farther, or a little bit longer. I think that one was the one in the PlayStation 1 kind of graphics. Next up is a really cool game that's been getting a bit of buzz. It's called Screenbound, and it's a platformer game where you're playing as a character in a 3D world that is holding a Game Boy. And in the Game Boy, you see yourself on a 2D plane. And so you have to... Again, kind of a puzzle game, but this is like a 3D spatial puzzle. You have to watch both things to make sure that you don't fall. There are enemies maybe on one screen, but not on the other. You might like get a balloon in the Game Boy, and then that like helps you float in the actual world. Very cool idea. I hope that it pans out pretty well. They mention a level editor, but I don't know if they're making that like available to the public or if it's just their level editor. Because it'd be really cool to see what like the internet could make with that level editor.
Well, good for them. I bet this was difficult to make.
Yeah, it looks very hard to make, but such a cool idea. I love new ideas, and that definitely is new. Next up is one I thought Devin would like. It's called Zoocosis, and one of the devs got on and said, I basically wanted to make a game that asked the question, what happens in a zoo at night after everyone's left, and what if it was creepy? And it looks a little janky, but it looks kind of funny. It's gonna be out this summer. Oh yeah, there's that
spider giraffe
turned into a spider giraffe. All these animals are getting infected with like this weird mutation, and so you have to like try and heal them and escape. Yeah, kind of a creepy looking first person puzzle horror game out this summer. Next game was called While Waiting, and it's just kind of this very minimalist indie game where you do different things while you're waiting, like waiting for the elevator, waiting for the red light. Cool idea. I don't know how much of a game is there, or if it's just, is it 30 minutes, or is there like more layers to it? I'm not sure yet. Next up was a 2D cyberpunk. They called it an adventure horror game called Psychroma. And I thought it had a cool vibe. I'm very picky with dialogue heavy games that are 2D like this, so I'd have to probably see some reviews and see how much it comes together. But next up was a game called Building Relationships, and the way he introduced that game was, imagine you are playing as a house on a date. And I was like, that's a very weird way to explain anything, but you play as a house that's like rolling around on like this mountainside, and you have to do a bunch of stuff by rolling this house around.
That's the strangest thing.
Yeah. Next up was a DLC pack to a game that I really want to play, but I haven't played yet, called A Little to the Left. This DLC is called Seeing Stars. A Little to the Left is like a organization puzzle game where you have to organize the different things on the screen, but there might be multiple ways to organize them. So you can get like, there's multiple solutions and multiple, like, you need to get as many of the solutions as you can to get the different stars. Very cool art and kind of a fun idea, like organizing a junk drawer or something. Let's see what's next. Hello Again is a cozy time loop, is what they said. Play as this little ferret in kind of this colorful place. It looks like there's this 2D game has a similar like colorful art style that is now. Oh, what is that game called?
Ollie Ollie?
No, but I do love Ollie Ollie. Dang, I can't remember. Anyways, it kind of had the same vibe, so it's definitely an indie like adventure game. Go around, talk to people, track stuff in your journal. probably solve some puzzles. Tom the Post Girl was next. Looks like a funny, very quirky game. You play as a post girl named Tom who has to deliver packages to people, but she's obsessed with spying on people. So instead of just delivering it, she like looks through their windows, or like I don't like, she's just spying on everybody. Looks kind of silly. And maybe halfway creepy. It has some very interesting like artwork. After Love EP was next. It's a narrative game about a musician in Jakarta, out in Q3. Then Phoenix Springs is a reporter looking for her brother, which they called a modern point-and-click game. You don't have any items in your inventory, which is kind of one of the hallmarks of that genre. Is I have an item which I need to combine with another item and then set in this lock. It's kind of like the puzzles in Resident Evil sometimes. Like you have to like find like parts of a statue, combine them, and then put them on the statue. That's very point-and-click adventure-like. But in this one, they said there's no items in your inventory. You instead go into this mind palace kind of idea, and then have to use the knowledge that you've discovered from the game to kind of connect ideas in this mind palace. Interesting idea. And then the last one they showed was Tides of Tomorrow, which I can't even remember what it was. So hopefully this will jog my memory.
Is this it?
I think that one is it, yeah. And what was it? Oh, okay, yeah, I do remember this one. So you play as like this thief in this like shared world where other people are playing too, and items that they left behind like will be there. So it says here your friends shape your story, you'll shape theirs. And I think in the trailer, like somebody drops a knife under a desk that then you use to escape this certain room. So it's all about like the shared experience there. That was the end of that one. Very quirky showcase for sure, especially compared with the big stuff that Jeff shows at his. I like Day of the Devs though. It's a cool initiative. And I think Screenbound, that one with the Game Boy holding, and some of the other ones look really good. Battle Vision Network from Capybara. Love it. All right. The other small one that started right after this is Devolver's. Like I said, they always do something really odd with theirs. And theirs is all told like through this probably 20 to 30 minute kind of documentary film about this guy who is obsessed with their games, and it like goes through a bit of his life and him getting ready, and he talks to the camera. And then they announce a few games in between these weird vignettes. Then like the police come to his house and he almost gets arrested, and he's trying to throw this birthday party. Devolver really loves to like lean into like their weird side, and they make some.
I kind of love that.
Yeah, I love it too. If you get a chance, you should watch it. It's ridiculous, but it's like he's about to just shove his head into this cake as he's going halfway insane. So it's just like a very odd thing. Kind of remind me of like A24 or something that just kind of leans into what they are. But anyways, they announced 6 things. First one was Cult of the Lamb here that you're seeing is getting local co-op. Cult of the Lamb is awesome. It's a roguelike game where you play as this little sheep, and you have to get all these followers, build up a base, and then you're trying to defeat these bosses in the hack and slash kind of roguelite combat. And you build all this stuff, your followers can like you, and sometimes you have to sacrifice some of them and stuff. It's a little sacrilegious in that way if you're a Christian, but don't take it too seriously. It's not trying to break your faith or anything. It's just trying to be silly. That's a fun game though. I really like it. Next one is called The Crush House, and it's really weird. It like makes fun of things like The Bachelor and Love Island. It's like a parody of those, and so I don't even know exactly what it is, but it shows these characters like punching each other, then kissing, and then it seems like there's might be a twist in this one too, with like some cameras like watching you, and it turns into like this Five Nights at Freddy's kind of thing. I'm not exactly sure what this is, but there you have a demo that's going to be out on August 9th if you want to check that out. Next up was a game called Tenjutsu. and it is a roguelike kung fu game from one of the designers of Dead Cells, one of the most well-loved kind of roguelike games. And I think it looks really cool. This cinematic here at the beginning isn't what it looks like. It looks like that when you're playing. Kind of a little more pixelated. I would say pixelated to the level that something like Celeste is. So it's not like super old-fashioned looking, but definitely is pixel art. But I think it looks really cool. Hopefully the combat style is or the combat's really fun. They said they were inspired by Hotline Miami, which is a very violent and brutal game, but is very addictive because it's just such a fun time. So yeah, hopefully that one's great. Hotline Miami was also one of the games that put Devolver Digital on the map. So I'm sure that they wanted that one partly for that reason. Next up was an expansion pack for the Talos Principle 2. The Talos Principle is a puzzle game where you play as kind of a robot and you're solving all of these puzzles in 3D. So you're like using lasers and different things to solve puzzles. I've played almost all of the first game and it's really awesome. Like the puzzles are great. And I've heard the second game is even better. So I'm really excited to try it. This expansion, it looks like, has 3 new areas. I don't think that I wrote down what they were. Yeah, but they're like 3 different areas focused on different types of puzzles. One of them has this giant cube with like large puzzles that are connected together. But if you like puzzle games, Talos Principle and the second one are both excellent. Next up was a game called Angerfoot that's out on July 11th. And what a weird looking game. It's like this character is running through these places, just it looks like Doom. You're just like destroying people, but you mostly do it through your sneakers, and the sneakers that you're wearing do different things. Like they have these float shoes and flash shoes, and you're kicking like crazy, and that leg flying out there kicking looks so ridiculous. Kind of funny though.
So it reminds me of in Battletoads when you like hit someone really hard and it's like this massive fist.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's a good call out. It does look like that. That's Angerfoot. Definitely a unique game. Seems like a game for them. And then next up is another game by Heart Machine. In anime style art, it's called Possessors. It's not coming out till 2025. I think Heart Machine is who did Hyper Light Drifter. Very excited for this game. Hyper Light Drifter was awesome, so this one looks cool as well. Don't know much about it other than it kind of looks Metroidvania here from the gameplay, but then the artwork is very like Japanese anime style in like those cinematic cutscenes. So we'll see what it comes together as. Okay, that was those 3 shows. I thought those were pretty good. I liked the indie ones probably a little better than the Summer Game Fest, but that's just kind of because of my leanings. Okay, next up, we're going to try and go through these last 2 a little quick. Xbox had their big show on Sunday. And we'll go through these things real quick, and then I'll have Devin tell me how he thinks that Xbox's show was. First off, they showed a little bit of Black Ops 6. That's what they started with. It's coming to Game Pass on October 25th. I've forgotten how great like Call of Duty campaigns look. Man, they're beautiful, and like they're just like as blockbuster of a blockbuster of a blockbuster as you can get. It's like super high like cost, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I'll even play it, but I was just like impressed with it a little bit. I think you're too far forward, Devin. Maybe I'm trying to look and see where you're at right now. Oh, sorry, you're... There's a whole other one before Xbox, huh? Okay, never mind. Let's stop right here. Oh, let's go back. Next up was a future game show, which was also a lot of indie games. So let's bust through those really quick, and then we'll get to the Xbox show. They showed a lot of things. Again, I feel like I need to say the names for some of them, or for all of them at least once. This first one is called Bogdan's Cross. And it had cool art. You kind of play as this kind of like hero in the Crusades, it kind of looked like. He's, yeah, holding a sword, smacking stuff. Next up was a game called First Dwarf, which is a base builder. They have a demo out now, and it's in early access on June 20th. And that one, I think, was a multiplayer base builder game. Kind of looked like it could be fun, but again, very picky with those kinds of games. Next up was a game called Nobody Wants to Die. It's a sci-fi noir detective thriller. And after the show, they released another trailer, and the game looks really great. Like, the graphics are really good, kind of has Blade Runner vibes. You're like trying to solve some crimes, and it's like future. I think the year is 2329. Very pretty. Next up was a very small game called Detective Dotson. You play in India, solve crimes, kind of has blocky art, but looked like it might be just funny enough or cute enough to be good. Yeah, there it is. Very blocky kind of characters. Next up was another look at that Once Human game that I thought looked like Remnant a bit. And they went into a bit more detail about kind of the gameplay elements. There's like tons of different bosses, and it's a survival game. You have to like make bases and craft food and stuff, and then it also has these big fights, and I don't know, it could be really cool, or it might be too much, or it might be trying to do too much. We'll see. I don't want to stay too long on any one game since we've already been going for a while. So I'm going to just keep talking. You scrub through to wherever you want, Devin. If you want to see another game for any longer, feel free to do so. Next up was a very silly looking game where you play as two characters that have to kind of synchronize your movements, and like you'll be in two different rooms and have to talk to each other to figure out these puzzles. It's called In Sync, IN space SINK. Then there was a new DLC announced for Dredge. Dredge is awesome. It's now on PlayStation Plus Extra. If you haven't played Dredge, it's pretty great. This DLC is again based in an Iron Rig. It's called the Iron Rig DLC, I think, on August 16th is when that is coming out. Looks fun, has some kind of cosmically weird artwork in that reveal. And then they did 7 quick spotlights. One game was a fast-paced first-person shooter 4 versus 4 called Diabolical Rogue. Then a game called DDS2 is an action sim game. Kind of had this island with a guy on a boat and stuff. Then Star Vaders is a tactical roguelike deck builder. Has a demo out now, soon to PC. The guy that made Balatro said, "Watch out for this one. Looks great." So you know what I'm doing? I'm watching.
You're watching out.
Yeah. Next was Clockwork Ambrosia, a pixel art Metroidvania game with guns.
See, pause real quick. I like the look of this pixel art. It's a little clearer. Things are easier to understand. It's not, the blocks aren't so big. You know what I mean?
It's more like 16-bit, like Super Nintendo versus like 8-bit original Nintendo.
Yeah, it's just, I would enjoy this a little more.
Yep, I generally agree. Super Nintendo, I think, is the perfect like pixel art. Love it. Next up, and that one looks like it could be really cool.
Yeah, Mega Man vibes.
Yeah, Metroidvania with some cool weaponry. Next up was Clockwork Ambrosia. Nope, that's not right. That's the one I just said. Next up was Sword of the Necromance Resurrection. It's a remake of some indie dungeon crawler game. Then Anton Blast. They said it's inspired by Game Boy Advance games, and it's a really weird one. You like run fast and just smash through stuff. I don't know. I'm not sure. The 2 times I've seen it, I've thought that looks very unique, but also looks like it almost plays itself because you're just like running. You'll see it here in a second. After Anton Blast was Farlands, which is a sci-fi farming sim. It looked like, I wrote here in my notes, Stardew Valley in space. It's coming to early access on July 24th. And then the one of these 7 that I thought looked the coolest is called Big Boy Boxing, and it's basically Punch-Out mixed with Nickelodeon is what I put. Maybe that's not a perfect scenario, but that's kind of the vibe I got.
Is that not King Hippo?
It looks like King Hippo, yeah. I love Punch-Out. That kind of like pattern-based fighting game is so fun. The Punch-Out game that was on the Wii, by the way, that game ruled.
Oh, right, yeah.
Next up was a trailer for a game called Parcel Core, and it comes out September 3rd. I wrote down here Tony Hawk / Crazy Taxi on bikes doing tricks. PC and console, there's a demo out on Steam. Has cool vibes. I like I like what it looks like. Then there was another look at Screenbound, that one with the 2D and 3D puzzle kind of scenario. They just said it's coming soon. Don't know what that means, but it's coming soon. Then there was a sizzle reel of games that are coming to Netflix soon. Tales of the Shire, that new Lord of the Rings game that I don't think is out yet, is coming to Netflix. Don't Starve Together, Lab Rat. They have a few games based on some of their series. So Perfect Match, Emily in Paris, Selling Sunset, Too Hot to Handle. A game called Rotwood, Harmonium the Musical, Cozy Grove, Camp Spirit, and The Dragon Prince. All of those are coming to Netflix. Netflix's gaming initiative is pretty cool, because if you have a Netflix subscription, you can play all of their games, and they're ad-free, and there are no in-app microtransactions. So it's just part of your subscription. I think that's cool. It's like a value add. Makes me want to resubscribe to Netflix, but money, right?
Yes, money.
Next up is a game called Happy Bastards. Keeping this PG. I guess that's as PG as I can PG. It's a medieval puzzle RPG. Very odd kind of style there, but you play kind of on these grids in these puzzle fights, it looks like. And then you're also out on this overworld map sometimes. Could be cool. The Relic First Guardian was next. It's a Souls-like game that looked pretty cool. I thought it looked a little too zoomed in on the character. I was like, wanted it to zoom out just a tiny bit. And there was no like HUD, so I couldn't really tell what was going on, but the fighting looked kind of cool. There's so many of these games, I don't know, all of them can't win, right? Some of them are going to be great, and a lot of them are going to get forgotten, even if they're pretty good. Next was a 3D puzzle platformer. I think it's called... in the game you escape from hell with a stapler, and it's called Hell of an Office. Here we go. We're just keeping it PG with, all the cuss words. And then the next one is called The Operator, and you investigate crimes from like an FBI computer. I think in the game they called it the FDI. So they probably can't use FBI or something, but if it's like a murder mystery or something where you have to solve some crimes in there with that seems pretty fun to me. Then Deliver Us Home is coming to Kickstarter on June 11th. My guess is that is probably the third game in like the Deliver Us the Moon and Deliver Us Mars, I think, are the two other ones. So this, I think, is the third in that series. Next up is a game I thought looked really cool. It's called The Precinct, and you play as a police officer, and you're basically like going around cleaning the city up. You like do some cover-based shooting from like a top-down perspective. You have to go arrest people. You drive around in a car, kind of not quite Grand Theft Auto 3 style because it's a little bit on an angle, but it's not like third person. It is a isometric camera angle above your character, but you like arrest people and fly a helicopter, do all kinds of shenanigans to keep the town safe. August 15th on PC and console. Then there was another sizzle reel with a bunch of games that have new demos today. The first one was called Motor Doom. It's a BMX roguelike. They called it Vampire Survivors mixed with Tony Hawk. And I like Vampire Survivors and Tony Hawk, so I was like, okay, sounds cool. Next was Angeline Era. I don't remember what that one was, but there's the Motor Doom one, Devin. Like you're doing tricks and then like a million monsters come out of nowhere. It's very silly. There's Angeline Era, looked a little, yeah, I'm not even sure what that was. Hack and slash. 10 Dead Doves is a psychological horror game, kind of retro graphics. Servonauts looked like Overcooked, but you're running a space gas station. I'm into that. Dystopica is a cozy cyberpunk city builder. Gun Touchables is a co-op roguelike. Oh, here we go again. Wild Bastards is a roguelike shooter with a Western theme. And Metal Suits Counterattack is a run and gun space shooter. 2D run and gun, I should say. Next up is another look at a game that's had a couple trailers the last few weeks called Duck Detective. You have to solve crimes as like a private investigator duck. Has a dedicated quack button, they said. I think it looks really fun, to be honest.
Is he made out of paper?
I think so. It looks very silly. They said it's inspired by Return of the Obra Dinn, which is an awesome, very difficult puzzle deduction game. That game rules if you haven't played that one, Return of the Obra Dinn. But yeah, Duck Detective looks pretty cool. Then a game called Sacrifier is a Metroidvania puzzle game, ? Is what I wrote. Kind of looks like Octopath Traveler, at least in the art style. It's like pixel art on the characters, but more high definition for sure. Running around this big kind of fantasy world. Looks like it might be cool, but it did look like it was more puzzle focused than combat focused, maybe. We'll see. Another look at that Space Marine 2 game, Warhammer 1. Very violent. I wrote Helldivers 2 vibes again. That looks cool. September 9th, 2024 for that one. So coming up quick. Goat Simulator 3 getting DLC content. It's called the Multiverse of Nonsense. It starts with a battle bus and a bunch of portals opening above the Fortnite map, just dropping goats out of them, and then the goats just land on the ground. Goat Simulator is so ridiculous. And then it shows Thanos glove with all of like the power stones coming into it. So they're just like making fun of Marvel and Fortnite in Goat Simulator, and it looks kind of silly. Yeah, here he goes. He's gonna just plop. And the goat's tongue is always hanging out. I don't know what the heck is going on in these games, but they look very odd. Next up is a game I'm really excited for. It's called Shim or Skim. I'm not exactly. SCHIM. You have to jump from shadow to shadow. You're like, I think a frog's shadow, and you've lost your frog that you're supposed to be the shadow for. So you're trying to find him by hopping from shadow to shadow, and along the way, you'll also find other, what they call skims, or skims, yeah, I'm not sure, who have lost their item, and you help them find their items on your path to find your frog.
This game has crazy creative mechanics. I like that.
Yeah, and the graphics are like really cool, like very unique. Again, cool new idea. That one's out on July 18th. Next was World's Worst Handyman. He said it's a stealth kind of horror comedy game. You have to sneak around and try and, I don't even know. You're trying to raise money for this animal shelter by being a handyman, but you're not good at it, and you have to try and sneak around from people and fix stuff when they're not watching for some reason. Next is a game called Judero, which is a stop motion game. They made it with like clay and stop motion. It has a very unique look because of that. Like kind of very creepy. But it's a game, and like the clay like spells battle and chat and stuff. It looks really weird. Next is a game called Hermit and Pig. It's an adventure RPG about an old man and his pet pig. Next one is a game called Eric's Home: The Stolen Dream. It's a, let's see what I write down, top-down stealth action during gameplay. But then I also wrote down the facial animations were incredible in like the cutscenes there. I was very surprised. I don't know if they're using like Unreal Engine 5 or something to help with that, because sometimes you see like a game that you know costs $300 million and the facial expressions are still not very good. Then this game, in this kind of a more indie-based showcase, I'm like, man, those faces look very good.
Even while watching this muted, you could almost tell what they're saying to each other.
Yeah. Are you watching it muted as well?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I thought you were listening to
I
sound.
should be listening. Why am I not?
Both sitting. Yeah, you can turn it up a little bit if you want to. Let's see. What was that one called? Eric's Home, The Stolen Dream. PC and console soon. I thought it looked really cool. I don't know much about it, but it looked like you were sneaking around as that kind of lady's daughter trying to help the town or something. Next one's called Run from Mummies, and you basically run a lot in these dungeons with friends from mummies. Fall 2024 on PC and PlayStation 5. Next was a Souls-like side-scroller called Mandragora. Looks like it could be good, is what I wrote down. Comes out this year, PC and console. I couldn't tell if there was... Again, I feel like that one needs to be zoomed out a tiny bit. So maybe they can clean it up before launch and it could be good. But very picky with the Metroidvanias and the 2D games because there's so many good ones. Okay, what was the next one here? Dustborn. It's a road trip adventure where you make decisions, kind of like a Telltale game. It's out on August 20th. Kind of an intense trailer here. They're getting pulled over, and you get to make a decision, like when the cop gets to your window about what to do, and you end up like delaying the cop, and he is a little freaked out by you, so he steps back a couple steps and then gets hit by a diesel semi truck. But if you like decision-based games, that looks like it's what it is. Next one is a game that uses the super hot mechanic, where basically the game moves when you move, it looked like. They call it a bullet hell game called Enter the Chronosphere. So yeah, when you move, everything moves. So I think it said like think slow, move fast, or something like that. So you can kind of plan out what you're going to do next, but then as soon as you start moving, everything else is going to start moving too. I like that mechanism. Super hot is great. Next up was a tower defense game where you kind of control your troops called Toy Tactics. Thought it looked a little mid, but maybe I'd be shown wrong. Next was a game called Linkito, and the trailer they showed looked pretty cool because the animation like playing in this TV gave me Fallout vibes because it's like the Pip-Boy kind of stuff. But then it just ends. They just like right there, they didn't show any gameplay or anything else. So wow. I know almost nothing about it. So yeah, I don't know. Next was Numata, a Resident Evil inspired horror game. Very grisly, real looking graphics was kind of what I wrote down. It's out this year on PC and console. It looks very very grainy and definitely like they went for realism, which might be a little much for me. I mean, it looks creepy. Okay, next up was a Hotline Miami inspired game called Sono Kuni, and it mixes hip hop music with I think kind of karate. And so yeah, it kind of looks like Hotline Miami, but you're doing all these like karate kicks and you can deflect bullets back with your fancy kicks. What a superpower. Next up is a game called Eternal Strands. You were fighting big monsters that you can climb, kind of in Shadow of the Colossus style. Very colorful vibe. There was a cool NPC in the game that you were talking to that was kind of bird-like, reminded me of the Rito in Zelda, those bird, the race of birds in Breath of the Wild. PC and console soon is what it said. Yeah, I don't know. That one could be, it has potential to go either way, I think, because it looks pretty good. But what does it feel like? Who knows? Next up, they had a sizzle reel of just a bunch of examples of things that people have made in Unreal Engine 5. And they do look amazing, but a lot of them are like, just like a single screen or something, but they look good. Then was Starship Troopers Extermination, Carnage on Planet X-11 update. I didn't know this was a thing, but I guess there is a Starship Troopers game. The thing they focused on with this update is I guess every enemy you kill now stays where it is and it's dead body. So they like showed you walking on the giant mound of dead bugs to get like a better vantage point. Anyways, if you like Helldivers 2, seems like it's going after a similar audience there. Next game is called The Casting of Frank Stone. It's by Supermassive, who did Until Dawn and the what's that series of games called? I can't remember. They do all the games like Until Dawn. Man of Medan and
Dark Anthology?
Yeah, Dark Anthology. There you go. This one is specifically set in the Dead by Daylight world. And so I don't know exactly what that means, but it's somehow related to Dead by Daylight. It's out on console and PC this year. It's a single player game though. So it is basically a Supermassive game just in Dead by Daylight's world. Next game, again, I thought could go either way. Has a cool, colorful vibe, gave me Crash Bandicoot vibes and Donkey Kong Country vibes. And so I wrote down here, please don't suck. The name of the game is Nico Dorico. And you play as like that funky looking, I don't know what that animal was. What animal would you say that was? Tiger? I don't know. But it has these cool like 2D levels that look like a Donkey Kong Country level. There's minecart levels where you're on a rocket like the newer Donkey Kong Country levels. But then there's some that are like Crash Bandicoot, they go forward and backwards where you can move slightly along that plane. You can play in co-op. I don't know. It could go either way. I'm nervous though that it will be a bust, but hopefully I'm proven wrong. That one, I think I already said, this year on PC and console. Next up is a game called Body Cam. It kind of blew up earlier this year for being uber like realistic. And it's a tactical, objective-based multiplayer first-person shooter. The two modes they mentioned in the trailer are Deathmatch and Body Bomb. I'm guessing they'll have more at some point, but seems like what's that game that everyone's obsessed with? Rainbow Six Siege, kind of adjacent, right? A very tactical shooter. And the last game of the show was actually just a little weird that they showed this. It was a tiny little trailer. It didn't show any gameplay, just showed this frog on the screen breaking some glass. Which the animation in this shot's really pretty. But that's all they showed about it. And then they popped up to the hosts and they said, this is, I guess, the first little tidbit or example from Woodrunner Games, who are devs that worked on Cuphead.
Ooh, exciting.
It's not the same studio as Cuphead. It's just, I guess, some that worked on Cuphead and have moved on to do their own thing. So I think that frog looked really cool. But I don't know what the heck was the game. I don't know. All right, so that was the Future Game Show. That was all. They had a lot of small reveals there. So we've been going here for a sec. Now we're on the Xbox show. This is where they started with Black Ops 6, and where I was saying that, man, Call of Duty, it's beautiful looking, and I do remember like liking some of those campaigns. They're like just a fun action movie, some twists maybe, lots of shooting. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say about Black Ops 6. After this Xbox conference, they did a whole like 30-minute deep dive into multiplayer, single player, and zombies. I didn't watch that either, but if you want to know more about Call of Duty, there is that as well. And I think Treyarch and Raven are both working on this game. Anyways, that was the Black Ops 6 section. Then we start into Xbox shows proper. This was Phil Spencer, was kind of the one that kicked it off. He's the head of Xbox, I believe. And the first game they showed was Doom: The Dark Ages, the newest Doom game. And man, it looks awesome. It's like fantasy based. So I think it says like before he went to space, he was like I don't know, some hero or something back in the past. And so there are mechs, like a Doom mech that you like drive. There are dragons, fantasy related stuff. I thought it looked really cool. It opens here with him grabbing this shield as well. It's coming out next year on Game Pass, Series X, and PC. And it is coming to PlayStation. They just didn't announce that during the showcase. But yeah, it looks very cool. But again, Doom is very intense. You got to be ready for like, I'm going to play for 30 minutes and it's going to be like my heart rate's going to be up, there's going to be blood everywhere, and I'm going to be jamming to some metal music, and then I'll be done.
Yep, time to release all my anger.
Yeah, but people really love these, and I can see why. It's like it kind of feels like an arcade game in a way. It's just like what's the example? Like a Resogun or a Housemarque made that Dead Nation one where you're shooting the zombies, and kind of similar vibe here. It's just like non-stop action. Next was State of Decay 3, which just got a cinematic trailer. That's kind of their survival zombie game. I don't know a lot about it. I haven't played it, but I think the idea is like it's a big shared space and you can kill other players or form alliances with them, kind of idea. I don't even know if there's a campaign in these games. Maybe there is. Next was a cinematic trailer for Dragon Age The Veilguard. The Veilguard is the new game, or the new name for it. It had a name earlier, but they have changed it. It's coming out this fall to Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. The next day at the Ubisoft event, they showed gameplay of that, so we'll look at that in a minute. But the graphics and everything of this game look amazing. Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, we'll talk about Dragon Age more in a little bit. Next up is DLC for Starfield. It's called Shattered Space. Comes out this year. Their new content was available immediately tonight after the show. And I think the DLC pack mentioned like a new locations, gears, bounties, and yeah, it's coming to Xbox and PC later this year. Next was a new expansion for Fallout 76. And I think they said it's the first expansion to Fallout 76 that adds more space to the map. So I think there's like new locations. And the ability to play as a ghoul is coming in early 2025, they said. Next up is a cool looking game, I thought, I think it's called Expedition 33. And I couldn't fully tell from the trailer, but it looked like it might be a turn-based game. It comes out next year on Game Pass, PC, and this one has been confirmed for PlayStation 5. I want to see, watch this trailer for just a second and tell me if something looks weird about it.
I feel like a jump scare's coming.
No jump scare. Just if something like catches your attention. Surprised you haven't caught it
yet. The fake arm?
Nope. I think the game looks really cool. It might be awesome.
Yeah.
As a little hint, so that there's not too much dead air. Look at the male character. I'll take a sip of my Mountain Dew, see if I can burp again.
Come on, show me the male character. Am I supposed to recognize that guy?
I thought you might. The note I put in the document is that Robert Pattinson?
Oh, really?
It looks like it to me, and I was listening to it and I was like, I think that's him, but they didn't put his name anywhere. So yeah, I'm not sure. It's got to show the face one more time.
So Edward might be in this, huh?
Yeah, rewind a little bit and tell me if you don't think that's Robert Pattinson.
Oh, shoot. I can see it. 100%.
Yeah, I swear it looks like him. And even maybe more at the beginning of the trailer, but I don't know. I'm sure if I Googled that a little bit, I could find the answer, but I think Robert Pattinson is in that game. Next up was a trailer from one of Xbox's own teams, from Compulsion. I didn't say that right. Compulsion Games. And it's a game called South of Midnight. I don't know a lot about what this game is. It looks like kind of an action adventure game where you're in this like deep south with these crazy cool like mutated creatures. You're riding this giant koi fish, and the animation has that Into the Spider-Verse movement style where it's like a little glitchy. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. It's coming out next year. Game Pass, console, PC. And I thought this one looked fun, at least for being like a cool theme. It looks like, I don't know, God of War combat kind of. You know, a lot of games kind of employ that hack and slash kind of combat. But I don't know, it could be really cool. The trailer ends with this giant like alligator thing trying to eat you. Hopefully it's good. Next up was I think just a cinematic trailer for a new expansion for World of Warcraft called The War Within, out on August 26th, only on PC. Yes, since Xbox is really aligned with PC, they wanted to have a PC only reveal here, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. World of War. I'm really picky with fantasy. I think I'm starting to realize where World of Warcraft seems like it's a little too hardcore fantasy for me. I don't know the right word for it.
I know what you mean. I think
I think it's called high fantasy, like Lord of the Rings. Like I love Lord of the Rings. I think that's high fantasy. And then this seems like it's a layer below that where they're like, we're gonna lean really into I don't even know what's that creature, the green one. Anyways, so I don't know. World of Warcraft has never really captured me, but if you like that, new expansion, August 26th. Next was another look at Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. I think it's just a remake of that game, which I know a lot of people love. So I'm excited to maybe try Metal Gear for the first time this year. I think they've had a couple remaster collections come out with Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, and then it'd be fun to play this one, which I believe is 3, as like the remake version of 3. And then I have 4 downstairs in the basement on my PlayStation 4, or excuse me, PlayStation 3, and we have 5. I don't know. Lots of stuff there. Next was an update for Sea of Thieves. Season 13 is on July 25th. I don't remember what they said. Oh, I think you can choose to be like a villain in this one and use like sail around in it's not the Black Pearl, but it's like the bad guy's ship. Next up is a Souls-like game called Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn, which is out on July 18th, also coming to PlayStation. And it's a Souls-like from the makers of Ashen. And we played Ashen for a little bit. I thought it had potential. We kind of fell off it for some reason.
I played it?
I believe we did. Let me double check.
I probably did. My memory's bad.
Yeah, we totally did. I can't remember what other game this developer made. A44, Ashen. Maybe that's the only one that they've made. I don't know. Anyways, did I say if it was co-op? I didn't write that in here, but if it is co-op like Ashen was, that could be a fun time. Okay, next one is called Age of Mythology Retold. It's September 4th, Game Pass and PC. I didn't know what this one was. It's Retold being in the title made me think it was a remake of some sort. Next one was a big one. This game has been in development for a long time. I think the initiative is Microsoft Studio that is in charge of it, and they initially called themselves a quadruple A studio, whatever that means. Most teams that are big are called AAA. So I don't even know, but they've struggled to get this game out. But it looks really cool. It's a kind of a reboot of an older series that Xbox owns called Perfect Dark. I think Perfect Dark was originally made by Rare back on the Nintendo 64, I believe. And yeah, the trailer's super cool. You can it's a little hard to tell exactly what kind of game it will be, but you're like sneaking around, hacking stuff, trying to do like corporate espionage maybe, or like government espionage. I'm not exactly sure, but the trailer is very beautiful. Looks like it could be good. And that's a big reveal for the Xbox team. So happy that one came out. They didn't, I don't even think, say a date at all. I don't even think they said next year or anything. Next was a trailer for the expansion for Diablo 4 called Vessel of Hatred. It's a brutal trailer. At the beginning of the trailer, they even put a note up that said, some of the content in this trailer may be difficult to watch for some people. And it was just kind of body horror at the end, like her limbs like ripping in half in like a weird way, and this demon's like torturing her. Definitely gross looking. Yeah. And it's even worse if you go back a little bit. It like shows it ripping. It's gross. It's out on October 8th. There's a new class, a new region, new story. And yeah, this was just a cinematic trailer. Next up was another big showing for Xbox. It was Fable, which is coming back after a long, long time. Out in 2025. It's coming to Game Pass, console, and PC. And it's just a cinematic trailer, but it was a fun-looking one. It seemed like you play as a female character, which I think they show here in a minute, who is either like learning from Humphrey, this guy, or like going along with him on his quest or something. But yeah, it looks beautiful. I know people really love Fable as like a little bit less serious of an RPG, but I think it also has like a good story and lots of fun you can have.
Yeah, I would like to play that.
Yeah. And some cool monsters like that giant frog and stuff. Next up was a very small game for them to put in their conference, I thought. It was called Winter Burrow, coming out in early 2025 on Game Pass, console, and PC. The reason I thought this game was cool is it's being published by Noodle Cake, and I love Noodle Cake Studios. They make Super Stickman Golfing, or Super Stickman Golf on mobile, and I think those games rule. And they've also made some other pretty cool games. Whenever Noodle Cake makes something, I'm excited about it. So that one was called Winter Burrow. And actually, before I skipped one, my bad. You're on one that I skipped. This next one I thought looked pretty cool too. It's a 5v5 hero shooter called Frag Punk. Comes out next year on Xbox and PC, and it's a first-person shooter with like these super cards that you like hold in your hand, and then when you crush one, it gives you a special ability.
Yeah, it just turned like all the enemy heads way bigger to make your headshots easier.
To do the headshots. Yeah, so there were some cool like special abilities in those cards. Man, a lot of hero shooters right now. That Marvel one and Concord, and then this one, Frag Punk. And yeah, this was the little indie game from Noodle Cake, Winter Burrow. Next up was a game from Annapurna called Mixtape. It's coming out next year. Game Pass, console, PC, and PlayStation 5. Gave me Life is Strange vibes. You're like a teenager hanging out, maybe getting in a little bit of trouble. Seems a little more wholesome, though, in my opinion. I don't know if this is like rated M as well, like Life is Strange. Life is Strange is a little cussy. Hopefully this one's a little more wholesome. I don't know. Looks like it could be fun. And it's from Annapurna, who makes good stuff usually, so I would try that out. Next was another look at Flight Simulator. I don't know if this is a new game or just an update to Flight Simulator. Flight Simulator is so impressive and like how big and beautiful it is. I think it uses like Google Maps data, and you can fly like over any city or anywhere in the world, and see like actual streets and buildings and stuff.
That's so great.
This either new version or expansion is out on November 19th and gives a lot of like new flying options. And so they have like flying as this one, air ambulance, or as like agriculture, like when you drop the water on the farms. Yeah, aerial advertising. All just different kinds of ways to fly. Yeah, VIP charter. So yeah, I think if you want to simulate flying, I think this is the best simulator that there is, except for maybe like ones that NASA or somebody uses, which probably can't run on a PlayStation. Let's see. Next up, it was the 10-year anniversary of Elder Scrolls Online releasing. So they're making all the DLC available for free for a limited time. Again, an MMO, I don't know if I could get into one, especially one that's like 10 years old. But I don't know. If it's been around that long, it must be pretty good, I would think. Next was a game from the Life is Strange series. It's called Life is Strange Double Exposure, out on October 29th of this year for console, PC, and PS5. And it's the same character from the first Life is Strange. Her name is Max Caulfield, I believe. And I liked Max. She was one of the best parts of that game, which you would hope your main character would be. She's a little older. Her friend dies, but she starts to hear her voice and can like hop between two dimensions, one where she's still alive and one where she is dead. And it seems like she has to try to solve her murder in that other dimension, and maybe that will bring her back in the other one or something. This game's had a little bit of controversy because the game's $50, or if you pay by the $80 version, then you get access to chapter 1 and 2 of the game 2 weeks early. And so some people have been saying like, okay, so I have to pay a $30 upcharge to not see spoilers. I don't know. I would just wait the 2 weeks and save the $30. I could avoid spoilers, but I know it can be hard sometimes to avoid spoilers for big games. Next up was the Indiana Jones game, and man, it looks exactly like Raiders of the Lost Ark to me. And I think they're using like all the same characters. I think it might be the same villain. That might be the same lady from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that looks exactly almost like Harrison Ford. I wonder who's doing the voice, because it sounded like him a lot too. I'm sure it's not Harrison Ford though. I would imagine they don't want to pay him what it would cost to make Harrison Ford play that character in this game. But I don't know. It looks like it could be really fun. Graphics look really good. Machine Games does really good work. When they get past the cinematic, I think it does show some gameplay. And I forgot, Machine Games makes first-person games. So I believe it's a first person. It's not like Uncharted where it's, third person. They show him like whipping the whip at the end of the trailer. And yeah, I mean, I thought the trailer was awesome. It goes through this whole scenario here where they're like hiding from these Nazi characters, and there's like some funny moments that happen. Totally Indiana Jones vibes. I thought they nailed the vibe for sure. So hopefully it's really good. And yeah, I just don't know how first person gameplay will kind of how will that match the vibe I'm like expecting from like an Uncharted game or something? But maybe it'll match. I don't know. But it looked really good. Excited to try it. Yeah, here's the first person stuff.
Dang, it just briefly shows it, but I could see it.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was what's the full name? Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It is coming out this year. They didn't say a date, but it's this year to Game Pass, Series X, and PC. Well, X and S, I believe. Next was another look at Mecha Break. It's that fast flying mech game. It's having a beta in August, also coming to PlayStation. Next up was a game called Wukong or Wu Chang. I'm not exactly sure. Fallen Feathers. It's coming out in 2025 on PC, Series X and S, and on PlayStation. It's a Souls-like game with Japanese art, kind of creepy art. I thought the trailer made it look pretty cool. Your character like gets hurt and then her arm gets healed with like these feathers. Maybe that's why the name is Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. I think they might show some gameplay once you get a little bit past this spot, or maybe it's just a cinematic. I can't remember. Yeah, her arm kind of heals itself here after she gets hurt. So I don't know. Maybe it'd be cool. That is so much body horror in these trailers lately. That weird thing coming out of that monster's face. I don't like that. Okay, and then they ended with a few big ones. Avowed is another big RPG that one of their teams is making. It's coming out this year. They've got a lot of games launching this year. Microsoft does this one, and Indiana Jones, and what else did I say? Now that I say that, I can't remember anything. The Starfield DLC. And maybe that's it. And then Dragon Age, but that's not their game. That's by Electronic Arts. But yeah, Avowed, I thought it looked pretty good. I don't know exactly like where's the trailer wasn't super long. Like what's the main difference between this and Fable? Or like Dragon Age? I'm not 100% sure, but looks like it could be good. And then next was a game called Atomfall, which is coming out next year on Game Pass, console, PC, and PlayStation 5. And this one, I don't remember everything about it, but yeah, those big kind of robot things and kind of this World War II setting. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like it could be interesting.
Yeah, I've never seen an aesthetic or this time period with robots. I feel like they've targeted a very small niche.
Yeah, very specific. It's cool that it doesn't look like it's totally been done before, but I definitely get Fallout vibes from it a little bit. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's like the robot where it shouldn't be and that like zombie ghoul thing we just saw. I don't know.
It could be cool, honestly. We'll see.
Yeah. Next up, they showed just a tiny bit about Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's out on November 15th. We'll again talk about that in just a second on the Ubisoft thing, which is a short one. And then they showed a little bit of Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl, which is out on September 5th. It's a first-person shooter set in Russia, I believe. Looked very pretty. Weird, demented monsters. Big tornado thing. I think Stalker and Stalker 2 are very well-loved games, so I imagine this is a pretty solid one. I've never played one. I think they're probably like PC first kind of games. That's probably why. But it looks pretty fun. All right, and then it was at this point that they showed their new consoles. So there's a new all-digital Series X. It's a 1 terabyte version, and then there is a new Series S. Excuse me, also a 1 terabyte version. Those were both white. And then there's a new black, Galaxy Black 2 terabyte Series X. That one is $600, which was a little surprising, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was kind of odd to announce kind of the same consoles, but more expensive ones. I would imagine Microsoft can get quite a deal on storage. Just having the fancy Galaxy Black colors and an extra terabyte of storage. I was a little surprised it was $600. Makes sense to me that they'd want to have new consoles out since Sony is, it seems almost certainly, going to be announcing their Pro model that's going to go on sale this fall. So it makes sense that they would want to have something new too, but those weren't new. They're just have more storage. It's a little weird. And then the show ended with their one last thing, which was a trailer for a new Gears of War game. And this one is called Gears of War E-Day. I think you're too far ahead, Devin. That's the Call of Duty 30-minute Call of Duty section. So it should be right after Sarah Bond talks here. There you go. Yeah, that's the Gears of War trailer. And I guess it's all about, I don't know exactly what E-Day stands for. It's probably the day that those that the aliens first showed up on the planet. So it's kind of going back as a prequel to the first Gears of War. And I forget those two characters' names, but Marcus and Alex, Marcus and I can't remember. I think those are the two like well-loved characters from that series. So some big games that they showed during their conference. I thought their conference was very good. It was like an hour and 15 minutes of just boom, 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 good stuff. I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10. I thought it was very solid. And a lot of stuff that was coming out this year. So I think they're going to have a good year. They needed that. So that was good.
That seemed better than the PlayStation one to me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Way better. I think it was way better.
Can you still see me and the show?
I can, yeah.
Okay, Streamlabs crashed on my screen, but it says it's still going in the background. So,
oh, fun. Hopefully it is. We'll see. Last up was one I didn't watch. It's Ubisoft Forward, and really quick, just the highlights from that one. Skull and Bones is getting a new update that has dragons. X Defiant, they showed the season 1 content. There's a new Monopoly game, a game called Anno 117 Pax Ramona. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is getting a new DLC pack called the expansion called the Skybreaker, out next month in July. The Crew Motorfest is adding a new island for free. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, very good Metroidvania game, is got a free update that day and is getting story DLC, I think called the Dark Mask or Black Mask, in September. The full-blown Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake has been kind of restarted and is now targeting 2026. That game was, I think, supposed to be out in January of 2023. So that's been quite a kerfluffle they've had there. And then they showed gameplay for their 2 big games that are coming out this year. Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows. I think there are 13 minutes of Assassin's Creed. It's a very beautiful looking game. The one thing I thought was funny, rewind just a little bit, Devin, to when he hops off his horse. And see, tell me if you think anything looked weird about this moment when he hops off his horse. Nothing?
I don't know.
His leg went right through the horse's neck and head.
Oh, okay.
I was just really surprised that they didn't catch that in editing or something. I don't know. Maybe they thought it would give them some cred. Yeah, people know that it's not quite finished and we'll finish it up. But his leg just went right through the horse's face, and I thought it was funny. This game looks so pretty.
It does.
Very, very cool. I was surprised at how violent it is when he starts beating people up with that spiked staff. Did you see any of this, Devin?
I did. It's brutal.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He knocked one guy's head right off. It was kind of crazy. I was surprised. But yeah, I like the 2 characters. He's big, strong. I just go in with that, giant baseball bat. And then the other character, they show 5 or 7 minutes of her gameplay, sneaking in and hopping on the rooftops and stuff. So I thought the gameplay looked pretty solid.
I'm sad because I want to play as her because I think she looks cooler, but I think my play style is just to beat everything up in an area. So I should probably play as him.
Yeah, I think he looks pretty cool too. And I think in most missions you get to choose which one you do. I think it said there are some sections where you have to do a specific one, but sometimes you get to choose which character you're going to play as. So that might help too. So yeah, I thought that looked really good, that gameplay. And then they showed gameplay of Star Wars Outlaws, which is a little tricky to tell exactly what that is like from that gameplay section. But man, it's also very pretty. That's the behind the scenes that you're in now. So if you just go left a little bit, or rewind just a little bit, I think Star Wars might be the thing they opened with. If you go back quite a ways. Yeah, I think it's the other big section. Left. Right.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
But very, very pretty open world. Lots of characters on the screen. If it really is this populated.
Sweet.
It looks really cool. Very beautiful. And I thought this looked really cool too. You get in your ship and you get to walk all the way to the cockpit and then fly around. I don't know how open it really will be. At one point you fly out into space and then you fly down to Tatooine, and they do the No Man's Sky thing where you fly down at the planet and then you go through the atmosphere and then you land, or then you're at Mos Eisley. I'm guessing you can't fly over the whole planet. It's just no matter where I hit this planet, I'm landing at Mos Eisley. I don't think it's it's an open world game, but I don't think it's trying to simulate huge planets like Starfield or something is. But yeah, even though this ship combat looks pretty fun as well. There's like random events that pop up. You can help people and they'll give you credits, and you're kind of like an anti-hero, like a little bit of a smuggler, and you help with stuff to make money.
Dude, this looks sweet to me.
Yeah. Those like nostalgic Star Wars vibes get me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm in. But I have been burned by Star Wars lately, where like some things have just been like not very good. I think this game is supposed to be set between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, so it's in like a cool period. So I don't know. It could be really cool. I think that this gameplay trailer makes the game seem bigger than it really is. They said that it's like a 30 hours to beat, like 50, 60 hours to 100%. Which for an open world game, that's like the time frame I want, I think. I'd even take a little smaller than that probably, but I don't want it to be too much bigger. But yeah, some cool like vehicle, what's that called? Transportation? That's not the right word.
Mount?
Yeah, there's cool vehicles. When you fly in the ship and you're on the speeder here, it's super cool. And you have like I think it shows it here in a minute. You can kind of scope out like the bases, like Far Cry or something. So it is kind of Ubisoft in that way, where like you're, trying to take over enemy fortresses and stuff. Your little creature companion is what gives you your like sixth sense ability. At one point here in a couple minutes, she says, "What's his name? Nivi? Some name. Can you see anybody?" And he like makes this sound with his gills. It's actually in just a second when you walk in this room to your right, and then from his sound like that, you can kind of see through walls. In just a second, right here, actually.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, so I kind of like that. It's basically just the same thing as like the listen mode in The Last of Us or whatever. But I like that the little creature did it.
Yeah,
it's like
truly.
he's helping you a little bit. Kind of a dumb, silly thing, but yeah, I don't know. It looks like it could be really fun. I hope that the gameplay doesn't get stale. If
right.
It's like always
just repetition.
Yeah, that's kind of my problem with Ubisoft games generally. Is like Far Cry looks fun for like the first 3 bases, but then there's 75. And then Assassin's Creed is fun for like the first 6 hours, but then there's 106. So hopefully the fact that this is like a smaller, more focused game will make it fun. And hopefully there's a little more variability. Okay, that was a bear.
That was a bear. You did a lot of talking.
Well, I had watched these before. And so I kind of knew I'd be the one that at least said what the games were, and then you could pop in with whatever you thought looked cool. So I'm glad we did it this way, recording both things.
Yeah.
So that kind of you and anyone watching the video version can kind of experience those at the same time. And anyone that was watching or listening on audio, I hope that I gave you enough detail. Maybe this might be one where you also just check out the video version, or maybe you've already seen these showcases anyways, and so just a little audio refresher of us talking about them, might be enough. All right, well, that was everything. So I thought we'd maybe just end by just saying, which of these conferences do you think was the best so far of the summer? We had Sony's a couple of weeks ago, which we both said was super mid, other than Astrobot, which looks amazing, and some previews of Astrobot have been going up, and everyone's like super raving about it. So I'm like all in on Astrobot, but that was like the saving grace of that presentation. Then we had Summer Game Fest. I think the highlights from that one for me were the Lego Horizon game. There were some like cool games that I hadn't heard of before that might be cool, like the Phantom Blade 01, seeing that again, like it has potential. Hyper Light Breaker, Dune Awakening as an MMO that might get me into MMOs. Excuse me. That Unknown 9 Awakening game that's like Uncharted in India. So there were some cool reveals there for sure. Then there were the 2 indie ones that I really liked that were kind of there were 3 indie ones kind of. There's Day of the Devs, Devolver Digital, and then the Future Game Show that were kind of all focused around indie games. Skim, where you're hopping through the shadows, I really liked. I think Xbox's show just was the best one, in my opinion. They showed the most big stuff.
Yeah, it
from their
seemed
own
like most of
teams.
their reveals actually were pretty substantial.
Yeah, I think so too. Perfect Dark looks awesome. You should finish that trailer, Devin, after we're done here. And the Gears of War trailer is super cool. That Stalker 2 trailer was cool. The Avowed trailer and the Fable trailer. The entire Indiana Jones one. Sorry, I've been talking for too long. All of those looked great, and those are just the first few things I looked at. The flight simulator thing, I was like, man, this looks so cool. Doom, the Dark Ages, just like has 30 seconds of boom, like high octane, like metal music is awesome. And the Starfield DLC, I think a lot of people are excited about. So I think they had some bangers. And that Expedition game with maybe Robert Pattinson. Yeah, I think the more I think about it, I think I'd probably give their conference like a 9 or something. But I've talked a whole bunch. What do you agree? Do you think their showcase was the best one?
I do. I think Summer Game Fest had so much stuff, so it's hard to count them out.
Yeah.
But Xbox really condensed just some bangers, as you called them. Like, truly just good, exciting games. But why do they have such good games when their consoles are holding games back? What is this? What's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of the chicken and the egg situation. They had a really crummy generation with the Xbox One where they didn't release like a lot of great games. There are some good ones, but like in quantity, I would say they had like 1/5 or 1/10, like the amount of games that they needed to have. And so since they fell so far behind during that generation, they're just like, they're in a tough spot where I don't know if they can really ever catch up on a hardware front. And they've said this before, which I think is a really good point, that losing that generation that bad was really bad for them, because that's when people started making their digital libraries. Like I started buying all of my games digitally on PlayStation 4. And so then when the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X were coming out, I'm like, oh, these ones, like, they look a lot more evenly matched than the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One did. But there's no way I'm moving because I've got 500 games on the PlayStation 4.
That makes me feel bad for them, honestly. Like, because I want both sides to succeed, you know?
Yeah, I do too. Because competition's good, and Sony without competition will charge $60 for their VR adapters and charge you $10 to upgrade your Horizon Forbidden West copy from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 and try to nickel and dime you a little bit. So I agree. I think that the way that they're going to be most competitive, though, is in software, where once they fully just start putting all of their stuff everywhere, they're going to sell a shiz ton. Like the next Halo, what is the next Halo? 7? I guess Halo Infinite 2? I don't know. If it's on everything, like, can you imagine how big that would be? Be a big deal. So, I don't know. Anyways, I didn't have a closing question for us today. I thought we would just close by briefly just saying which shows we thought were the best. The 2 predictions I had last week was that Xbox would announce one of their exclusive games for PlayStation during the show. They didn't do that, but they did on their blog and stuff after the show point out what some of them are coming to PlayStation. So I was wrong there. They did say right here, after the conference was over, they had an interview with IGN, and they said, quote, "Our commitment to our Xbox customers is that you are going to get the opportunity to buy or subscribe to the game. We are going to support the game on other screens, and you are going to see more of our games on more platforms. And we just see that as a benefit to the franchises that we're building, and we see that from players, and the players love being able to play." The thing that's been quoted there the most. You are going to see more of our games on more platforms. Seems like a lot more of these games are going to come over. That seems to be Satya Nadella's prerogative. That was a big lot of words there. The CEO of Microsoft, he wants it to happen, it seems like. So I think it's going to. The other prediction I had was that Silksong would be out now, included on Game Pass, and it has in no way, shape, or form been mentioned. So in the words of that Gordon Ramsay guy, I am an idiot sandwich. So,
way to go.
Yeah, hope burns eternal. and we are all clowns for thinking that game will ever come out. We do have one more hope. Nintendo still has their conference this month. They haven't announced the date, just that it's sometime in June. And please, by some miracle, just let it be there.
Honestly, bro.
And Devin, I think your prediction was Bloodborne 2 would be at the Summer Game Fest.
And it was.
And
not.
Yeah, I mean,
because no one cares about one of the greatest games ever made anymore, so they're not working on a sequel.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with that. I feel like they're fumbling with that one. I do feel like Grimcoven is basically Bloodborne 2, but it is a board game, so you got a little difference there.
We could just play the Bloodborne soundtrack while playing Grimcoven.
Yeah, that's probably not a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Oh man, I need to decide if I'm gonna get that or not, and it's hurting my bank account just thinking about it. But it looks so cool.
It does. It really does.
I just need to figure out if I would like the gameplay. I can't. It's like judging a book by its cover. Sometimes you can't judge a game by its cover. I need to know if I'll like the game. I have this other game coming, I think in August or September. It's called Marvel Dice Throne Missions. And basically, Devin, you played a different version called Dice Throne Adventures with me a long time ago. It's a simpler version of that where you, and either by yourself or with some friends, choose a Dice Throne character, and then you play against a Dice Throne villain on this map. But they're a lot shorter experiences than that Dice Throne Adventures one was. That one was a little longer than it needed to be. But I'm not sure if I would like a dice or a boss battler that isn't in a cool... Like, I love the Dice Throne system of, like, rolling dice and re-rolling and playing a card. Since I already know I love that system, like, Dice Throne Missions was an easy yes for me. And it has 20 different boss scenarios. So maybe that should be my boss battler, and I should ditch Grimcoven.
Hey, no judgment from me.
Chat.
Do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the comments, boys and girls, if Grimcoven is a yay purchase or a no, save your money, David. I don't know. Well, Devin, anything else you want to say before we go?
No, it was a great show. There's a lot coming out. I'm excited to see what the future of gaming holds in the next 2 years. It was also really fun to do this episode because I was able to watch gameplay the whole time, and I love games.
Yeah, I think it was a fun one too. It'll be interesting to see if people like this episode, since it's basically just like a bunch of us talking. But I think that's why it will be fun to maybe just move our heads a little out of the way, put the video that you were recording up in the middle, and then they can kind of see some stuff while we're... Because there's probably like 150 games, I just said.
Yeah.
Like, and so not all of them's going to be for everybody for sure, but...
This episode is definitely going to thrive on YouTube. Watch this episode on YouTube.
Yeah, I think that it will be true, as long as I can. Now I got to figure out if I can line up that video with our voices. Luckily it's muted, so I don't have to worry about like the audio coming through, but we'll see. All right, everybody, thanks so much for listening to the Super Game Brothers podcast. Make sure to check out the other videos we have on the channel. I just had my maybe 10th playthrough segment of Animal Well go up. We do this podcast every week. We have advanced episodes every week, exclusive on Patreon at patreon.com/supergamebrothers. Devin streams every weekday on Twitch and TikTok. That's Player4 on Twitch. Not the number 4 spelled out. The number 4. I said that the worst way.
Digit.
Player, then the digit 4. And then on TikTok, it's Player, digit 4, TV. Yeah, I think that is... I think that's all the outro shenanigans. So thanks so much for watching. Appreciate you. And we will see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.